Do you guys know how much it costs to do like a testosterone check at LabCorp?
No idea,
I think
man.
it's like $40 or something,
Dude,
right?
it's $500.
What?
There's no way you're getting adversely selected.
No,
bro.
I swear to God.
I'm gonna keep it real.
No.
This is like you just walked in and you're like,
My-
dude, do you know how much it costs to get a drink? And you're like, it costs $100. And it's like, dude, yeah, man.
Okay,
you're
so
like going to
I
the best
literally
bar in
went
New
in for
York,
my
like-
physical and I asked my doctor, I'm like, hey, I want to get my testosterone check. It's very
Yeah,
high,
do you have
by
like
the
a
way.
normal doctor or do you have like a special doctor?
A normal, like a primary care. I have one medical.
Dude, I just got full blood labs. They took like 6 vials of for like $180 and they
Dude, I
tested
went to lab.
damn near.
Yeah, man.
I went to
just,
lab, like,
Signull, I'm like, I just think there's a 0% chance that you go and see like an average doctor.
wait,
And
what do
just,
you
I just think that the
you think
odds,
I'm going to like a really high-end doctor that's like concierge?
Yes,
Remember
I
how we
think the
started
odds
this
that you're-
podcast and we were like, hey, maybe you want to find a smaller room so there's less echoes? And you were like, I don't have any small rooms, right?
Yeah, wait, can you tell us, let's make him say it. So you come into the podcast and it's like slightly echoey and we're like fiddling with audio and like saying hi and talking a little bit about the format. What exactly did you say when I asked, do you potentially have a room that has like more things inside of it or is smaller? What did you say exactly?
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember, but I said something like, I'm so sorry. It's gonna sound douchey, but I don't really have like a small room. I only have 17-foot ceilings, guys. Jesus Christ. Sue me, okay? Sue me.
17-foot ceilings.
Signal lives in some like modern, like Greco, like transhumanist Greco, like type, like AI generated.
It's so
hotel.
true, dude.
Is it actually 17 feet ceilings? That's like
It's
oh.
I would say most of the houses that, but then I think some of them probably are about 12 to 13 feet, maybe.
I can't tell if
No,
he's
no,
fucking with me or not. I legitimately
no,
can't tell.
I like high ceilings, guys.
There is 0% chance that you go to a normal doctor Signal. Like actually,
No,
0%
also, no.
chance.
Even this is the other problem with this. Even if you do go to a normal doctor, by going to them, you transform them into a scammer doctor, is what I'm guessing, right?
Okay, yeah,
You could go
sure.
to the most normal doctor in the world, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, that testosterone sample, that's gonna be like checks notes, like $4,000, bro."
The doctor like keeps like saying prices that feel outrageous
And you just
to
keep
Signal,
being like,
and
"Yeah,
then Signal
sure."
keeps like not even blinking, and the doctor just like walks into a back room and like smacks his head and goes like, stupid, like no, I could have made
That's
so
funny.
much more
You guys,
money.
it's like a white person traveling to like a third world or country where they automatically jack up the prices or whatever as soon as it's like, oh, Mister, it's Lucas. It's no longer 10,000 rupees. It's like 50,000.
I paid like
And then Lucas also feels like he got like a scam bargain.
No,
and the
they
Indian
will
guy,
make
like,
Lucas
wants to
feel
kill
so
himself.
good about himself because he will feel like he got a deal because they typically the price. Okay, a normal person that price would have been like 500, and then they're gonna tell Lucas it's gonna be like 10,000, and then when Lucas says "fuck you," no, they're gonna be like, oh, you can have it for 5,000, and it's still he'll feel good about it because he feels like he got a deal, and then the person feels really good about it because he just totally scammed the shit out of it because he just increased that price by 10x. Or
I had
like
my
2
worst
orders of magnitude.
purchasing moment in Taipei. There was this guy who had a price for I was buying like a computer or something like that, and I just walked in and I said, "Yeah, I'll take that thing." And then he starts like haggling with me over the price, and I was just like, "Dude, just let me fucking buy it." And I didn't even realize what was happening, but like after like 30 seconds after, I was like, "Oh god damn it!" Like this was such an exorbitantly high price that he expected me to like barter with him over it, but I was just like, just give me the fucking thing, I'm willing to pay. And I like completely, he gave, the worst part is that he gave me a second shot, right? Like he tried to tell me what was going on.
He's like, no, dude, you don't get it. We're supposed to go back and
One of
forth
my
here."
ex-girlfriends, we were in Morocco, and I remember we sort of got into a little bit of a fight because she went to go to a shop, and she was like, oh, I love these little leather sandals or whatever. And the guy was like, oh, this is XYZ price. And she was like, okay, here you go. And I was like, wait, what are you doing? It's not how it works here. Like we have, and she was like, no, I don't care. I just want to buy them. I don't want to deal with anything. And I was like, wait, that's not how it works. You're violating, you're
You're
violating this
violating you're
every,
violating like Somalian commercial law.
It's
Like,
like probably extremely rude. It's like you're kind of flexing on somebody if you
if you don't
don't
negotiate, like
go back and
yeah,
forth once or
exactly.
twice, right? It's like
And so I was
disrespectful.
like, wait, I mean, it was remarkable. And her entire world was never about bargaining and, or, haggling and whatever.
dude,
Um,
women hate this shit. Women absolutely are like
well,
at
I
least
mean,
Western women, they like I had a lot of
it feels
people who
icky.
came from
Feels really icky for Western
right.
women to do this.
Yeah, they came from the US and they would visit Taipei and they would okay, so when I was living in Taipei, I didn't have a bank account in Taiwan, and so you can't without a bank account in Taiwan, you cannot use PC Home 24, which is like their version of Amazon. So if you want to buy something, you frequently just have to go to the store to get it, right? But like they don't have like the place where you go to get tech supplies is this tech bazaar, like Guanghao Digital Plaza, I believe. Uh, and you literally have to go and barter with people in this like 7-story building over like a screen protector for your phone or something, right? So you have to go and it's like a 30-minute cab down there, and then you have to go up to story 4, and then you have to barter with this person, and their whole thing is like it's hyper optimized for just tech bazaar bartering, because they assume, well, if you're coming here you want to barter, like you want the experience, right? Because otherwise you would just use Taiwanese Amazon, and you're not doing that, right? So you're just trapped into this thing of infinite bartering over like $4 items whenever, and it's like you can't just go and buy the USB-C cable, right? Or like the weird HDMI adapter. You need to go barter with somebody. It's like the worst part of every month.
Welcome to the Plausibly Deniable experience, sponsored by Polymarket, Zcash, Network Press, and Citizen X. We have on with us today a very special guest, one of the top posters, the greatest posters ever, Signull. Welcome. Do you
Well,
want to introduce yourself in any way?
yeah, well, first of all, I just want to say this is great. I've never really done pods before. I personally think podcast equipment should be taxed heavily, but that's just my personal take.
Like as some kind of social ill.
I think podcast.
The hours wasted. It's like a sin tax. Like
I think
it's like
just,
cigarettes.
It's
like
incredibly
nothing good is gonna
fascinating.
come of this.
No, I mean, in general, it's fascinating, the culture around podcast. I mean, your podcast is obviously an exception. It's wonderful. I listen
Of
to it all the
course.
time.
True,
So I
true.
appreciate you guys having
Not
me
you,
on
the
here.
girl reading this.
No, my friends and I joke about like whenever we're together, at the end we're like, damn, that could have been fun if it was recorded. Other people would have enjoyed that conversation because we just spent the entire time making jokes and laughing. And then we realize if other people had actually heard our conversation, we would not be able to exist on planet Earth in anywhere, shape, or form.
You would be really surprised, man. You would be extremely surprised by how much you can exist while recording everything that you say in your life.
It's this, it's incredible, man. This is why I hate the goddamn meta glasses or whatever, because it just creates this sort of discomfort when somebody has one of those things on and you're like, wait, I can't be myself. And with all these AI recorders and whatnot, it's just a fascinating time to be alive. Like Granola or any of the meeting recording software, just casually somebody's recording in the background and you don't even know it. Um, and it's a fascinating world. And going back to the podcast point, the joke that I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've listened to Call Her Daddy and all these other pods, and I'm like, oh my lord,
Dude,
what is
wow.
going
That's
on?
like actual like pod slop. This is
That's
crazy.
like total slop.
Well, I mean, this is
That's
what
like
this is literally what people are consuming, dude. Like, it is absolutely nuts. Like, if you look at the top 10 podcasts, right? Like, what are people actually listening to and consuming? This is the type of content. And then all these clips are going completely viral. If you don't listen to the end-to-end episode, the clips themselves go viral on Instagram Reels or TikTok. And so the zeitgeist or the population is consuming roughly the same content, the same top X number of people are producing this, and that is proliferating. So, man, very few people are setting the agenda on sort of the what and what constitutes as part of the zeitgeist and what people are focused on or whatnot. And it's fascinating power laws. I mean, that's what the internet does is it removes a lot of friction to create ultimate optionality like everywhere, no matter
So
what. I mean,
how do you think of, because this is something that we've talked about a lot on here actually, is just that like every single internet technology appears to improve liquidity conditions and decrease friction. And our kind of thesis is that like generally humans do this and then they say, "Oh no, like actually both of those things were kind of good." Uh
I
Yeah,
do
mean,
you have an
did
I
you
think a
ultimate
guys
lot
do you
view?
guys
about
know that quote where it says traditions were just experiments that worked, and so they turned into kind of like traditions or whatnot, and then traditions are what kind of held society um in check, if you will. I guess there were some barriers to entry, barriers to a lot of different things. There was shame, there was all these like feedback loops, which I think capitalism plus the internet kind of removes, right? It is the ultimate combination of removing any obstacle in your way. Like I went to the store and there's a diet cream cherry Coke. Okay. Think
The
about
new
that.
one, yeah. Yeah.
So there are three different things in that remove complete friction. Okay. Well, you don't want to have caffeine. Great. Or it was caffeine free as well, by the way, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, okay, you don't want to have caffeine? We've created caffeine free. Oh, you want cherry? Great, we've got cherry. Oh, you can't have sugar? We created diet. And that all exists in one product. Imagine how much friction that product removes. You could drink Diet Coke, Diet Cherry, Cream Coke any time of the day. And what is that as a result of? It's just removing barriers to access of that product.
I think there's one that's actually stevia too. Like I think we're thinking of similar products here, and there's one that's stevia. So for people who don't like the artificial sweeteners, they also
Amazing.
have a 0 calorie stevia version.
Dude,
yeah,
you
pretty
know,
sure
Of
I
the
they'll
thing.
make one without like water or
I
something.
was
You know, they'll
Yeah.
find a way.
I
Well,
was
so this whole process goes through everything, right? And we've done this with like dating is the classic one where you don't want to leave your house, right? You want to sit there gaming while smoking weed, but you still want to find love. And now you can kind of do it, but it's like this fucked up version. It's the same thing as the Coke, right? Like there is a product for you. You do get it, but it's a very much like the monkey's paw curls, right? Like it's not what
Yes.
you want here.
one of the things that people need to, I think one of the distinctions here is that there's everything in the world has either a single opt-in or a dual opt-in, right? So the single opt-in is when you just go and can acquire anything with pure capital, which is like buying a Coke is a single opt-in. You don't have to ask anybody else. You just opt in to buy that product. Whereas the dating app or anything else that requires more human elements, that's a dual opt-in system, which means both individuals have to opt in. And that creates a huge level of complexity. So like if you were to talk to, the guy who invented the swipe functionality, left swipe um is a no and a right swipe is a yes. And then now both individuals have to do a right swipe to be able to even chat with each other. That's a canonical dual opt-in system. And that creates a lot more complexity. So like when you talk about the Coke example, that's a easy, right? So that's why I think a lot of people tend to treat the sort of problem spaces that they are in as a shopping problem. So canonically, if you go on the internet, everything is kind of a shopping problem. It's kind of like if you go to the shopping funnel, there's a discovery and the consideration, all this whole loop in the shopping funnel consideration, and then obviously the transaction or whatnot. And so a lot of people think that dating is kind of like a shopping thing where people are like, oh, I just need to like find this right person, add them to cart, check out, and they're gonna get delivered to me. Um, but it's a dual opt-in thing. So that's a very different type of transaction. Whereas, I mean, I was on Amazon today and I ordered one product and it came in 1 hour at my doorstep. And that was absolutely insane. And I was doing a little market research for a product that I was like interested in. I tweeted about, which was like salad dressing, which was protein. So I went to Costco. I'd never been to Costco in a long time. I went to Walmart and I was just browsing these aisles for fun. And the amount of choice is insane, dude. I don't know if you guys have have been to a grocery store.
We
It's like a Walmart Plus or
I am
whatever.
just a huge Costco fan. We actually have had multiple Costco bits on here because
We
the
have,
entire
yeah.
premise of Costco as just super capitalism, insofar as it's like they're gonna do like Chinese level like minimum order quantities, but instead of saying like, oh yeah, you have to hit our minimum order quantity, they're just like the order quantity is one and it's the biggest package in the world, right? Like if you purchase this, it's 100 salad dressings in one
It's
enormous bottle.
incredible, dude. I
Yeah,
can't
it's like you get a
the
year's worth of salad
the
dressing. I think
the
the other
volume
thing,
and scale, yeah, is ridiculous, man. I can't believe it. And then you see all these people with giant shopping carts that are completely full of stuff
Oh,
that
that's
they
the
might
best part. The best part is the Costco shopping carts that mog every other shopping cart. Like you can go to
remarkable.
every other local grocery store and they have these little bitch carts, right? And they always even they have like the midget carts that are shorter too. Uh and then Costco is just like we have one size. Guess what size it is? Guess what size? And it's like XXXXL, right? Like you can barely fit it through the door. When I was living in Taipei for a very long time, there was a Taiwanese Costco that I would go to, and it's just like no matter where Kirkland goes, they're just the best. Like nobody does it this well. They did Asian food better than all of the Asians. You would get like the most absurd. Oh, the one thing is the rotisserie chickens were actually more expensive in Taipei than they are in the U.S., but everything else is pretty good, all pretty cheap.
Factory farming,
And
baby. Although I guess they probably do that
yeah,
in Taipei as well, but American factory farming is next level.
it's next level. I think the one thing I'll like maybe push back on a little is I don't think it's like I think people use capitalism as kind of this catch-all, but I think it's more this is more the result of like optimization processes that also like technically occur like if there's not private capital. To 90% of people this like this distinction means nothing. But I think it's just like when you hyper optimize a thing, like, let's say you really enjoy I don't know, I was talking with my mom the other day. She's doing like pottery nowadays. Say you really enjoy like doing pottery, and so you start a pottery business. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna optimize this a little. Like I'm gonna get an industrial like kiln and whatever. I'm gonna upgrade. I'm gonna like hire a couple assistants. I just like the sales process, so I'll like hire a person to do sales. Oh, like now my time is like better spent managing. And like at some point you stop doing pottery and you're doing a whole other thing. And this happens, I think, for everyone, right? And like across every function of life, like if you try to hyper optimize and cut away all the frictions, at some point without realizing you're now not doing the thing that you originally started doing, and it's become an entirely different thing. And you might enjoy that other thing, but you also might not. Like, and this is why you get people who like build these huge empires and then go like, hey, I'm quitting, I'm selling this, and I'm starting like one little shop because I realized what I really enjoyed was this little shop. And I think that happens with like dating apps and whatnot, right? It's like it moves from like, oh, I enjoy like talking to a girl that I'm interested to like, wait, what if we remove the friction? I didn't have to go to a party. I didn't have to like get her number. It's just a dual opt-in. I don't even feel the sting of rejection really heavily. I get to choose from this like buffet table of human capital. And at some point you start removing so many things, and then it's an entirely different thing.
you
Um,
start with the idea that I want to get married, and then you eventually wind up 2 years later with like a spreadsheet measuring like 372 personality traits,
Oh
where
my
you're
god.
tracking all of your last 192 dates, trying to rank them with your like algorithmic scale, and you're like, wait a second, like this is not actually related to the part where I find a wife. Like
You
something's
know,
gone extremely wrong.
the the contrarian or the sort of counter take here is, yeah, I totally agree with you. Capitalism is effectively a system that is designed to remove friction in everyday life, everyday access, make things, and generally that's a good thing. But I think a lot of life is where friction is actually quite valuable. That actually makes things more valuable. If something was just so easily accessible, that has inherently less value. It becomes kind of commoditized. And so if you think about it, um, when capitalism starts to remove friction on creating relationships or marriages or whatnot through these entities, you would think, okay, great, more people meeting, more people, sort of interacting. It's easy. These apps make it so easy. However, the when people go to value that, it's now inherently less valuable because it's just too easy. And so some of the times when capitalism or the idea of removing friction uh, turns out to be a bad thing as opposed to a good thing. And there's certain areas, generally, I think it's good. I mean, capitalism makes hair dryer $5 at Walmart. That's ridiculous. Like it is absolutely insane to think about the fact that you have access to a very relatively sophisticated product that most people didn't really have anything 100 years ago, and now everybody can buy it for $5. Um, that is
But we're all
phenomenal.
Norwooding now. I don't need a hair dryer. I need a hair growth serum. And the hair growth serum costs $100 million
Well,
now, and the
dude,
hair dryer costs five.
Turkey's making hair transplant easily accessible and useful to everybody. Like, have you guys seen how easy it is to get a hair transplant in Turkey? They pay for your
I have.
hotel.
I'm gonna do
They
it in like
pay
a
for
year.
your bro, you have the greatest hair ever.
That's
You're
not true.
you guys know what Masseter Botox is?
I did that
Yes.
to myself actually. This was
Yeah,
one of the
well, okay,
first
so it
things that
turns out a lot of people use masseter Botox to improve their jaw lines, right? Because it tightens the muscles or whatnot, and this is a very
really.
common thing. Oh yeah, yeah. Masseter Botox is also utilized to, it's utilized for multiple things. Like it's utilized to
So
treat like medical conditions where people have like a clicking on the jaw or whatnot, or like
I did it
they
to stop. I did it to stop my teeth grinding, but I stopped after I used the bottle because it was my assumption that if I keep Botoxing my jaw, I will eventually just atrophy the jaw muscle and I will look like an emaciated
Well, so
twink.
it turns out, it's a medical procedure for treating a variety of symptoms with the jaw, whatever, but it actually has some aesthetics because it tightens your jawline. It sort of prevents that
Huh.
muscle from moving around. And so a lot of people will try to, fake some of these issues just so the insurance will pay for masseter Botox. So they access the aesthetic version of it while actually not having a real medical condition, but it is actually like a hugely like popular aesthetic thing. Like a lot of, if you ask a girl like in New York or whatever, she'll be like, oh, I get 24 units in my forehead, or 10 units in my crow's feet or whatever, right? And then like 5 units in my masseters, and that's like a monthly, like not a monthly, every quarterly thing, I guess. But it's a very common procedure now, and a lot of people will. I knew somebody who didn't really have any jaw issues, but she would be like, "Oh, my dentist prescribed this to me, so therefore, insurance will now pay for it." So it's actually pretty
So I
interesting.
just did it myself because I went and when I realized that you could buy Korean Botox for like no money whatsoever,
What
uh,
the hell is
and
Korean Botox?
you literally just buy a bottle of the botulinum toxin or botu
And you
whatever
just
the
inject it yourself?
yeah. So
Wow.
Oh,
I went on and I was like, there's surely got to be like a tutorial for this thing, right? And then all of the videos that I found, I looked at the people doing the Botox self injection or the Botox injection videos, like the how tos, and I was like, no offense to this person, but this is like within the bottom 25th percentile of intelligence of the human race. If they can figure it out, surely I must be able to.
You guys know
Like,
this company called Peachy by any chance? Peachy's like they have all these like studios, and it's basically a Botox shop, and it's like a Starbucks for Botox. And the injectors there don't really need to be that skilled because they have an iPad app. And so what you do is you walk in and you take a picture of yourself. It just takes a picture, and the iPad app is intelligent enough to tell the injector where to inject the units based on your photo, and it's really really smart. So it removes all of the friction for an injector to figure out where and exactly how to inject somebody Botox, and they just turned it into a software problem. So they took the human element roughly out of it.
that's kind of funny. I mean, the only things that were a little bit confusing are when you have multiple different muscles layered on top of each other, and you have to figure out how deep you need to go in to get to one. Uh, like
It's
I saw
scary,
some
man.
people
I
who
can't believe people do that
self-injected
shit.
on their eyebrows, and I think this is one of the specifically more dangerous areas to do it because I think there's a couple layers, and if you hit the wrong thing, you wind up just like sinking your eyebrows.
Yeah, it's called
Like,
droopy eyebrows. Like it's actually a very common side effect. And also you get the surprise face. Do you guys know about the surprise face? So if you
yep.
that will
Where you always look surprised because your
you will
your
always look
eyes are like,
surprised.
yep.
You're right. That is actually a really dangerous area, roughly, because and also there's even if they inject it properly, there's a non-trivial chance you'll get this droopiness for at least like 24 hours or whatever. Um, Given the fact that there's all this like neurotoxicity going on in your muscles or whatever, but
How do you feel about? Do you have an opinion? I feel like you would have one on like the fact that people are just injecting these things that are like very toxic, right? Like famously some of the most toxic chemicals.
I mean,
Are
Oh
you like
Botox
yeah,
is
one of the
literally like the
truthers?
I
point of
actually had a
Botox is go for it.
not to be that guy of like citing my own tweets, but but I posted about this. I was like, isn't it fascinating that I meet people that are like completely healthy, eating organic, they take care of their bodies or whatever, and then they go and inject a neurotoxin pretty regularly into their face. And
This is literally just Lucas you're
And
describing.
it's like 80% of us also didn't get the COVID vax because we're scared of it.
Yeah,
Like it's just like
yeah,
Lucas
arrows
didn't get
every
the COVID
direction.
vax, but will inject himself with like
the
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 most.
trade-offs that humans make are really incredibly fascinating. Like the way they think about, everything. Man, I don't know if the human mind is made for making
Consistency.
trade-offs. Like it's just a hard thing to do. Like you're going to effectively do whatever you desire to do, and you just try to convince yourself that it's good for you in whatever mechanic that you have at your
There's
disposal.
something kind of Faustian to it, right? Like the modern condition, I think, is like very Faustian, where you have to take all these trade offs because other people are taking these trade offs, and so if you don't, you're like the only idiot who's not doing it. And so maybe 30 years from now, we all get like face cancer or something, right? Everyone who's doing this stuff. Um, but it's like, are you going to be the only idiot who has like 2% more wrinkles on your chin, man?
Yeah, do you guys know about like
You know, it's like we're
the
all jumping off the bridge, and it's like, yeah, in theory, like once we hit the bottom, it's like lame, and we all go splat on the water and die. But like, you're missing out on the sick party
Well,
for
this
like
is
the
also the
3 minutes
problem
in
with
the air, right? Like, come on,
well
this
the
is the
the,
dude.
the
problem
Like
with
narrative
the bridge
actually.
jumping problem, right? Is your mom will always be like, if everybody else jumped off the bridge, would you do it too, Lucas? And you're like, actually, if everybody else was jumping off, I would probably just do it and assume that it's okay.
Oh,
Like,
you'd
I'm gonna
be
be honest. I know myself well enough at this point. I would also just jump.
Lucas
you
would
know
not jump. Lucas would like look up on like a bunch of Korean forums like about the optimal jumping, like like the optimal jumping forum and like
I would do so much
optimal
research
like
on the optimal jumping
yes.
launch angle that by the time everyone was dead, I would have realized that it was a bad idea.
I think
You
the
would still do it though. You would do it and you would like more spectacularly than everybody else.
um
And you the whole time while you're doing it, you'd be like, all these people wrong. Like, look, none of their organs, like the
They
don't
didn't
even
get
look good.
you
of
were
their
the
organs was
best jumper off that bridge, bro. um Going back to the capitalism thing, it does remove friction in terms of the supply side, but what it also does is it creates demand where it was necessarily didn't exist before. So a canonical example is going back to Botox. So the number one thing, the way that Botox is marketed now, especially to like downstream, like to younger and younger people, is that it is you. There's this whole terminology called preventative Botox, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so the whole point is you don't even need wrinkles to get Botox. You just are doing it, therefore you don't get wrinkles in the future, which has created
Yep.
a larger market. So the entire mechanic for creating more demand is also built into the entire infra, which is, you try to increase that TAM as much as possible. So like girls who are like 14, 15 are getting preventative
No
Botox.
shot. 14, 15. Have you
Well,
actually I've heard of like
I mean,
18, 19.
if you go to
I've not heard of
TikTok,
14, 15.
obviously, it's hard to get.
It's hard to tell what's real and what's not
It's
real. But are
yeah,
there like
exactly.
14, 15-year-old girls on TikTok that are
It's like
like
the
promoting this
Chinese
stuff?
Botox company is
It's
making an
it's
AI
entirely
influencer pretending to
possible.
be a 12-year-old girl saying that she's getting preventative Botox to like maximally knock the age at which people try this
It's like the
down.
OnlyFans
Okay, but
account
even
managers,
if it's
except like a Botox guy who's
even if
like,
it's
yeah,
18, even if it's 18 to 21 or whatever, that's still quite young. Like you don't really like typically Botox was utilized to treat wrinkles and to tighten up your skin. And so the idea of preventative Botox is just incredible to me, That is now downstream you created an entirely new market for the same
and then they'll
product.
sell you the cure 10 years from now, right?
It's
It's
great.
like that meme, like they they outlaw the cure so they can sell us the poison.
And
It's like
again,
one of those
none of this is
extremely Reddit memes.
actually, this
That
is a good
it's
the
yeah.
way that we can connect this back is that none of this is nefarious or evil or anything like that. Like I think it's just people catering to demand and supply as it exists. And
I mean that's like kind of I think that depends how you look at it, right? Like I mean like certainly like selling arms to some guy in Iran, I don't know how far you can get off with like like ethics wise, being like, oh, I was just catering to existing supply and demand deficits, you
Dude,
know,
that
like I
actually,
was
the guy
just,
who
there
sells
was a lot
arms
of
to
demand for
Iranian.
AK, you know, for AKs, unmarked bullets in Iran. Like,
That sounds less
I
fucked
do
up than
think like a
selling
lot of it is
Botox to
emergent.
12-year-old girls, bro. Like, it actually sounds less morally quandrous to sell illegal weaponry to a
Yeah,
foreign militia than
yeah,
it does to convince your
I
own
think that's
nation's
pretty,
12-year-olds that they
yeah.
have to do Botox.
I think it's evil, but I think the way they get you is like all evil is pretty mundane, right? It's not like some executive is like, how do we really destroy the psyche and like physical health of 12-year-old girls? It's more like, you know, how do we increase like user minutes by 10%? And, you know, that just kind of, you know, at a certain point, it's like, okay, yeah, we need to start showing them like this insane stuff on their feed. Like, yeah, we can't show them their friends on their Instagram feed. We need to show them some girl who's like 30% more attractive than them every single time they open the
It
app,
just
right?
goes back to our very first point, which was incentive structures, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't really see them anymore or can even feel them oftentimes. And so these individuals are just operating at whatever incentives that they have around them. The same thing with like Facebook or dating apps or whatever, right? Like their incentive structures are, yeah, maybe time spent. Increasing happiness is probably one of them, but maybe that takes a little bit of a back seat because of the fact that they have to cater to advertisers and advertisements, and therefore time spent makes um, a lot more sense in terms of what to prioritize. So, I mean, it's funny how all of this stuff is just a connective tissue. It goes from incentive structure to product creation to demand creation to fulfilling that demand in some mechanic. And then that cycle continues over and over again. And ironically, it actually does make life much, much, much better more often than not. So, do you guys remember when the Cambridge Analytica stuff happened with Facebook when Trump got elected the first time around, and people were like, "Oh my god."
That was the most insane, like nothing
Yeah, yeah.
burger,
So people were like, "Oh
crazy.
my god, Facebook."
That's exactly like the Cayman Papers. It's like the Panama Papers. Sorry, it's like one of those things where like people just get angry about it because they just hate, like people just hate Trump or they just hate whatever or they just hate rich people. But when you actually explain like the morality of it and you're like, okay, what would you have them do differently? It's like there is just consistently no answer. You know?
I think
We got to summarize this for viewers. What are we referring to here?
um well, this was the sort of thing that the Cambridge Analytica took a lot of Facebook data and helped the Trump campaign potentially target individuals better or whatnot. And
Hmm.
people were really pissed off that their private data went from Facebook to Cambridge Analytica to helping
Trump campaign.
Trump campaign, and that was a fascinating world. And you're like, well, how valuable was that data? Like, what was the interesting part of it? And it turns out there was not that much out of it that was like not readily available or publicly accessible or whatnot. But yet people brought out their pitchforks and really went ham because the narrative was not really fun or friendly at the time where Trump got elected. And I guess I say this point because it's like, well, how valuable is your data, right? Like, I believe in privacy. I think people have a right to privacy and whatnot. And in general, like, I think, look, the tech companies have a much larger incentive to protect your data and not sell it or give it away or leak it or whatnot, because that is entirely in line with their incentive structures. If that ever changes, or if there's ever a leak at OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or whatnot, that has a profoundly negative impact. So from that perspective, even as a startup, look, I have a consumer startup that requires people to potentially give access to their world. And that's going to be a really interesting job for me to be able to communicate why, as a small 3-person startup, people should trust us and why they should give us some access to their data and why we can help them and make their lives much better as a result of it. And that's going to be a challenge, but the way to
I
frame
don't
all
think
of
it'll
this,
actually be that much of a challenge. I think we're kind of in
possibly.
the era of I'm very much so like AI. I think kind of ushers in this post privacy era, uh, where everybody has just accepted that it's over, kind of.
Hmm.
And there's always going to be like the guy using like an encrypted XMPP server to like message his like cousin
Totally.
and stuff like that. But for the most part, I think everyone is just like, it's a little bit cooked because you can take all of my writing samples across all of my internet use and triangulate exactly who I am
Yep.
over the years just based on writing style and like word incidents of just like how frequently you use XYZ
Which is
words, right?
famously how they got. That's how they got Uncle Ted. That's how they got the
Well, which
Unabomber.
is also funny because it protects the AI slop writers, right? Like if you're just writing slop with AI, then you're ironically not able
You're
to
very
be
safe.
triangulated.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you can also
That's
fix all of
super
these
funny.
things
The
too.
concept of like a bunch of spies like using like the most LLM speech possible. Like
They do though. That's
this
the thing.
isn't
this
That's
is
treason.
this is the thing. This is why people don't realize second, third order effects of all of this stuff, right? Like we think AI slop writing is trash or whatever. It's not fun to read, but maybe if you wanted to preserve privacy and communicate with individuals, you're probably going to try to just go through an LLM that will obfuscate whatever you want to say into words that are not triangulated or triangulatable or whatever, which is ironic.
Sam Altman, champion of
So
privacy.
if you're like a CIA operative, you're going to just produce a lot of AI slop. Wait, actually, I have a question. Would you guys give email access to like a random AI company?
You have to explain what you mean by email. Like read or write
Read
or
access, for example.
to everything? No shot.
Really?
No, not on like a
well, the
main
thing is,
email. Maybe on like a sub email.
Really?
doesn't
Okay.
Gemini just already have this?
In
Like
what sense?
Gemini does this very
I
like
think in theory.
it's like a
I think in
very
theory the
over
answer is
eager
no.
parrot that comes up, and whenever I'm talking to Gemini, I'll be having like a regular conversation, and then it will randomly be like, I looked through your emails, and it seems that based on these things, you may be referring to and I'm like, oh, that's like not like I didn't tell you
You
to do
must have
that,
given
bro.
it access at some
I
point.
think you probably
I think it would
connected
be
it.
insane for you probably connected it. It would be insane for Google to default
There's
connect
no
it. It
way.
would be
All that
crazy.
stuff is
People
No,
would
like I
siloed.
lose their shit.
100% connected it, but it's weird that it does this even in situations where I don't call it, right? Like usually
Oh,
LLMs are
gotcha.
very lazy about making the tool call. So the fact that it like, hey buddy, like I just wanted to let you know based on your last 3 months of communications with these people, that's a little unsettling.
That's just like the creator of Gemini has like an intra company like beef with the like product manager who runs like Gmail right now, and so he want like there's all these like funny things that affect like billions of people that are just like someone at Google in one department hated someone at Google at another department, and so now there's like massive like billions of users are affected downstream from this. Like that one guy. That one like extremely woke guy who was like, no, we can't have like scenic routes on Google because that would mean less people would go through you know like at risk
You're
areas or
diverting
whatever,
foot
right? Like
traffic
less
from
people would.
the most dangerous parts of
Yeah,
town. You're diverting
like no
foot
one would
traffic
walk through the
from
south
the
side of
highest
Chicago
murder per
anymore.
capita street in the
It's
entire
like
universe, which is bad.
it's like no one would go through O Block anymore, man. They'd lose all this festive social energy. Have you talked about what you're doing, Signal? By the way, do
Oh,
you want
that's
to? Do
actually
you feel
great.
comfortable?
Yeah. So one thing is we're gonna try to launch in a couple days, actually,
Hmm.
and
Well, you should talk about it then, man. Because by the time this will be out like next
oh,
week,
okay, yeah,
so
it's great. Our actually, okay.
dude, shill
Or
away.
should we do it? Okay. Maybe we
Yes,
can.
we're interested.
Let's see how it goes. What we're up to is uh, we're building an agentic home screen for your iPhone. It's actually a pretty cool product, and you guys, the underlying thing is your iPhone, if you look at it at a glance, hasn't changed in 20 years. It's a bunch of static icons that exist. And, you know, you can't really get information at a glance or things that happen automatically as a result of you just looking at your phone or whatever in the background. And we're building a cool product that's like an agentic home screen. It utilizes widgets. And so it's two simultaneous widgets working together to and it's a bunch of agents that run on your email, your health data, your finance. You can just connect whatever you feel comfortable with, and it helps you sort of synthesize signal from the noise, and it's all just lives on your home screen. These agents start, you know, going through your email and drafting replies that might need replies, or summarizing things that might need summarization, producing reading digests, trying to complete your reminders on your reminders. Actually, one of the interesting examples that I personally had was I needed to renew my passport. And so I just added it to my reminders, say renew passport. And the AI agent that we have that runs and listens to your reminders um, found a form that I needed to fill out, filled out the form, told me, here's the filled out form. You just need a passport photo, and here's where you submit it. And all just works in line. So we're building a really fun agentic product that lives directly on your home screen. And I'm very excited for it. It's the easiest way to for normal people to use AI agents. We don't even call them agents. We have these library of like you can turn on some of these agents, turn them on depending on what you feel comfortable with. Like, for example, we have a health agent that's really cool. So you just connect your health data and it gives you a little health check every day. Um, Depending on your metrics, how you slept, what kind of movement you've had, the workouts you've done. It even monitors things like any lab reports that might live in your health data and tries to understand and learn from it. And so all of this just works as background AI, and nobody's done that very well. If you look at all the AI apps that exist today, they just open up to the same screen, which is the chat box and the keyboard. And we have nothing like that. It's all just like background AI that runs via agents, and it's all beautifully organized on your home screen. And I'm excited to launch this. It's a very difficult product to build. And B, there's certainly privacy elements that we'll have to address over time. We thought about that. I'm like a huge privacy person, and so yeah, we're making accessible and useful AI agents that live directly on your home screen.
So do you think that like text is not the right interface for this stuff, or do you think like the chat box is not
I
correct?
think, if you talk to a lot of individuals, like most people don't know how to utilize it through the text box. They ask very few questions. It's like a blank slate.
It gives a
Um,
very bad idea of like the full extent of the capabilities of the
exactly. I
thing
think,
if you just see a chat. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think OpenAI actually talks about this in a variety of blog posts, which is like, the models are capable of so much advanced things. But yet the people that are utilizing it, if you look at like the top 5 use cases, it's like very primitive stuff that could be performed by a really dumb model, whether that is a summarization thing or writing an email or fixing some post that you want to write. Like people are utilizing AI for very, very, very basic things. And yet we're inherently focused on a lot of these advanced benchmarks. But yet I don't think AI is as useful or accessible as it could be. And I think that's a preliminary thing that I personally love thinking about is how you make it much more accessible, much more useful for a normal individual. Like, what is a phone that is AI first going to really look like? Like, why would you always have to go into applications to try to get anything done? Or why would you have to go and type into a prompt box over and over again, potentially the same things? And I think the idea of agents running in the background, like OpenClaw, is sort of uh, kind of shown a little bit of what the future might look like. Also, but deeply inaccessible, right? Like it's a very hard thing to utilize. So I think we're making the world more accessible and useful for normal everyday individuals in terms of how AI can impact the minutia of everyday life. Um,
So how is this? I imagine you just had to jump through an insane amount of hurdles to get anything like this running on iOS ecosystem, right? Like,
I've been doing
does
iOS
Apple?
since the inception of the iPhone, and we have some amazing people. It's hard, and it's actually this stuff that we utilize is just readily available, but it's unexplored, right? Like people haven't really explored what it means to.
Well, I think widgets is like a creative way to plug it into. I know some people who are doing voice AI, for example, and there's no way to plug voice AI natively
Yeah, yeah,
into the
No, the
exactly.
keyboard,
keyboard. The
right? Like,
keyboard is just so handicapped. It's
And
so
so
awful.
Apple does have a lot of restrictions in terms of what you can and cannot do and how you can operate in the operating system. But we leverage the things that are exactly there in a unique way, roughly, and market it and storytell in a unique way. Like the way that we present our product is it's a live AI home screen on your iPhone. It just works out of the box. And I think I'm excited to get you guys the first version of this. Um, but it's going to
Yeah,
be a
I'll give you all of my
chapter.
personal information. I'm not
I'm
big
looking
on
forward to Lucas, and
you're
I'm
not
gonna go.
Dario, so
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're gonna harvest and look at all your data and archive it, and then eventually.
you're just gonna find out that like so you know how you were saying that people largely use AI for like totally like meaningless, much less than they could be using it for, etc. tasks. Like that's totally me. Like my biggest use of AI is still some version of like anytime I have like a form or like a menial email or I need to schedule a meeting or something, I'm just like Gemini, please do it. Like Gemini, please just like handle this for me.
I know,
And I'm waiting. Oh, this is okay. Two questions here. One, is this basically like iPhones have that priority notifications thing, and it just sucks because it has no idea what you actually prioritize, and so you have these. It's like what you now have instead of actual priority notifications is like I've randomly selected 30% of your notifications to show you. These are more important than the other 30%, and then they're not. So you just have to now you have to look at even more notifications to realize that, right?
So
Uh
notifications are on iOS, and I think in general are a giant mess. They're just so the noise is insane. Like there is just so much. I actually personally don't turn on notifications for
Basically
95% of
anything. Yeah, my
applications,
entire
maybe
phone is
more.
like just don't send me this shit, and then if I ever forget to do it for an app, it ruins my entire notification panel for the phone.
I mean, it's incredibly insane because we built a, Apple built this channel that was really powerful at the very beginning, but it turned into a lot of noise. And I think, oh, no, I mean, my account is called Signal, right? Like, and the reason for why is that my obsession in in everyday life is how do you parse signal from the noise. And I think one of the things about our product is very much that it sort of parses through all of the things that you might actually care about in your daily life and just makes it very accessible and useful to you right away without you having to prompt, without you having. I'll give you another cool example. So our app, it runs location services in the background. So if you, with your permission, you can turn on always on location for Sky, which is our app. And it looks at, where you are, where you could be, like if you're at MoMA or if you're at a restaurant, and it has this confidence score. And if it does, it automatically triggers an agent, what we call the location agent. It aggregates a bunch of information live about that spot. If it's a restaurant, you'll get like what to order and how people are thinking about it and the sentiments directly. If it's like a museum, you get to see what kind of exhibits that exist right now. And intelligence processed through AI is not one prompt away, it's one tap away. And that's extremely powerful. Like, imagine going into any place and you just see at the top of your home screen, so, oh, Lucas, you're at MoMA. Here's some cool exhibits that you might actually enjoy. Here's where the restrooms are if you need to use them, whatever that may be. And I think those are like very minute, seemingly weird, potentially, small things that make a huge impact on everyday life in terms of how you utilize your device. That's one agent. There's a lot of these that are working, and we're going to have one of the greatest libraries of agents because we can build an agent in 1 hour now because we have all these infrastructure in place, and those agents just run securely. We don't store any data. There's zero data retention stuff with all of our model providers. And all of that just works without you having to create an agent, vibe code one, install one, God forbid, have to have a Mac Mini in whatever that may be. And all of that is just super easy to use. It will be like it's like turning on a light switch. People don't think about how to utilize lights in their home because it's just intuitive UX. And so, we think agents will be exactly the same way, and that's what we're building. Um, and it is universally accessible and useful. I'm excited to tell this story, and it's going to be unique because you know how most startups have this. They have this like, oh, they put like a 3 minute long video, Parisian love or whatever, and half of it's like whatever. I don't remember. And then they just go silent afterwards. We're gonna have a unique version of this, which is we're gonna have a small initial chapter zero. Here's what we're working on, and every day I will post about very simple human terms. It's like well, what are we doing? What's a feature of this? Why does this matter in the world? What makes it unique? And why does it improve your life? And that's going to be the thing that I do every single day on my account. And instead of going from like, um, here, like I think I posted about this earlier, but it's like instead of telling people we're going to do it and show how it's done. And I'm very excited for that particular part for sure, because building products is just it creates more dopamine loops for me than anything else. The idea of
So
building a great product is just
I think
that's
I think you're completely right. A lot of startups do communications and marketing really, really, really
yeah.
poorly, like incredibly poorly. And they do. I think the worst thing that people do is they spend a bunch of money, like you're saying, on like one really big launch video. Then they get overwhelmed, and then there's no follow up ever. Like there's no continued anything
Yep.
at all. Um, I also think like a lot of products fundamentally are like boring and shouldn't try to go down that route, but they want to go down that route because they see that some of their peers that it does make sense for doing it, doing like the big, YC launch video after demo day or whatever. Um, I think a lot of that playbook is getting rewritten, and I think a lot of companies have realized that stuff like, hey, having one person who's like an unofficial spokesperson who has actual personality and interesting things to talk about on Twitter is like does great things for your brand, right? Um, there's a lot of stuff like that that I think is yet, but it definitely sounds like a very interesting
And
product.
we're operating at like a
Um,
look. Consumer products are incredibly difficult. Marry that with consumer software, that's even more difficult. And then you pair it with the complexity of what AI is and how to make that accessible and useful, that makes it more challenging. And getting that package correct and having a simplicity and ease of understanding of an individual. Like, man, I feel like we're playing, not to, we're not like, I'm not trying to like put myself on a pedestal or anything, but man, it is a enormously difficult game to play. Like it's like playing in Hall of Fame difficulty, and that's why you see most people are not working on consumer stuff. Like every single, like well, like 80-90% of YC companies are all B2B or whatever. I think Brian Chesky just had a post on this, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's actually a really painful thing to get right, and that's why most of, if not almost all of the consumer startups just completely fail. But it's a really fun thing to do, and if you enjoy telling a good story, then it's actually the perfect vehicle for you to be able to it's like having a baby. You know how like the influencer accounts change from like a single girl who talks about dating, and then she gets engaged, and then her content goes to engagement, and then she gets married and her content is all about wedding planning, and then she has a kid and she turns into a mommy blogger. It's like a natural evolution of content life cycle for an influencer. Like for me, the
you
equivalent of
what
this
I've
might
what
be
I've learned is you really don't want to start making your relationship your core of content. I've known a lot of the people
just
who've done
always
this,
bearish,
and
man.
it's like,
I
okay,
just
well, because what happens is like you wind up in this situation where you're now chained to the, like, and there's always a way in which you can get more views on this content, and it's not things that are good for your marriage, right? Like it's never things that are good for your
Oh,
marriage.
if I could eternal sunshine my brain about some of this stuff with respect to that content, I would, because honestly, it's like at this point it's the it's like beating a dead horse. Like there are too many people, the zeitgeist is already picking it up and whatnot. Like it just doesn't, you want to focus on things that are the frontier. And when it becomes part of the core culture or whatever, and everybody is just exposed to it or they know it, there's just not enough signal anymore to be able to talk about it. Like, what would you ever talk about in dating and relationships anymore? Like, everything is just being
I
beaten to
do think that
death.
I do think you can really just do anything at this point. Like Solbra was the guy who made me realize that like he looked at the global market, right? And he was like, okay, it appears that health and fitness supplements are the most pico-saturated industry of all time. It appears that being a health and fitness influencer is like this is the most common job in America, right? Like we've surpassed truck drivers, grocery store workers, all of that. And he's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And he still wound up carving out his niche by being enough of a freak about it, basically. So
But yeah,
like
you have to do unhinged things to get traction at that point because the barrier to entry is kind of low. And I guess for me, anytime the
I
bear,
think you always do though. I don't think there's any spot that doesn't get blown up by the incentive pressure to do the crazy things, right? Like
totally, totally, and you
every
must.
single time where you can do a normal thing and talk about a normal subject in a way that doesn't endanger your life meaningfully,
Yeah,
like you've got like 3 months.
dude, look how Trump started his campaign in 2015. He literally started the entire campaign by calling Mexicans XYZ, right? Like they're, he literally utilized all of these terms, and that was like a very profoundly different thing. No politician would ever approach it that way. Like like if Trump had to get into the arena to be able to be heard and understood, he needed to be kind of crazy about it. And that was like a canonical example, in my opinion, where it's like
I think that Trump just naturally does that stuff though. Like I've
totally.
always had the impression of Trump is that like as Mr. Fightin' Show guy, his entire life just like accidentally virality optimized him for the medium of video.
But he
And now
wasn't.
he's
He
like,
was
wow, it's awesome. It's awesome that politics became what they did. This is
actually.
like my calling.
Do you guys ever watch old Trump videos of his interviews and whatnot? And this guy is a very sophisticated individual in so many different dimensions. Like well spoken, and he was actually like quite professional, and he would not say some crazy stuff in the past. But I think to your point, Lucas, I do agree, but I do think that if you're going to operate in a new arena, even for Trump, right, like politics, he needed to be different. He needed to have a different voice, a different mechanic, a different vehicle than anyone else. And it was actually ridiculously different. Like he literally, like it was incredible, dude. Did you remember the way he started his campaign? Like the first ever speech was all about like how we're, XYZ individuals are rapists and they're, coming across the border and completely that language was not ever utilized. And I don't think he even utilized some of this stuff. But that was a way to get attention and to be able to, uh stand out from the crowd and really speak the truth like I'm not saying it's a truth, but I'm saying like
There is
speak differently.
also there's always this secret hidden alpha with anything where like if there's something that sounds really extreme but secretly 90% of the room agrees with, you can always be the first guy to say it and you get like a double benefit to it, right? Because you get like if people agree with you, you get the benefit of that, but then also everyone sees you as being like excessively courageous for doing this thing that nobody else had the balls to say. So Trump like
Only in the last 5
massively
years. Before in the ZERP era,
Yeah, I think before it
you couldn't.
was a lot of this quote unquote low hanging fruit had like a lot of risks attached to it, which is why no one
Yeah,
would
yeah.
pick
During
it.
the 20
Um,
2020 or like the 2010s or whatever, like
yeah,
this was like a ticking time bomb, right? Like you would not be able to even approach it in any meaningful way, given the fact that like there was a lot of underlying repercussions for your professional life, personal life, or whatnot. And so it was inherently like a world where you couldn't really say things that you like. How many closeted conservative people were in Silicon Valley that no longer are?
a lot of people still are like deeply closeted about it, by the way. And one of the things that like Trump does, I will say, by pushing the bar on some of these conversations, is he gives people air cover. Like, he goes and says, like, oh, so and so are like rapists and traffickers and whatever. And other people will be like, oh, well, I don't agree with Trump. And because Trump has put himself out there in the line of fire, you get to say what you really wanted to say, right? Which is like, well, they're like not sending over their best, which is like one of the funnier phrases.
And Trump
Um,
always weaves
but
in
it's
humor like that too, right? Like he remember the
yes.
debate where he said, I think Megan Kelly was like, "You've called people, you've called women XYZ," and then he's like, "Only Rosie O'Donnell," and like the entire debate crowd just bursted out laughing, and like this turned into like a comedy session, and that is like the crowds were never a thing in debates, like they were all silent, and he turned that entire thing around so quickly. Like his comedic timing and the underlying things that he says is just ridiculously good. Like I, I post about this often, but like man, what a unique individual in so many different ways. He just
I think another really, really big thing that Trump saw was that we were changing the distribution, or maybe he might not have even seen it. He might have just stumbled into this accidentally, but he saw that we were changing the mechanism of distribution of all sorts of political content. So previously, you actually were kind of held to a standard of consistency in politics because you would go onto a show with an interviewer, and the interviewer would like ask you questions, and he would have researched about what you've said in the past. And if you deviated from your previous stances or positions on things, they would be like, "You've deviated. Like, I noticed you switched up. Why did that happen?" And they would like call you out on this, right? Uh, and you would really only have exposure by talking to one of these sort of gatekeeper mediums. And then as the internet became the thing that did distribution, now it's like you can be a politician, you can say talking point A, you can say totally contradictory talking point B, you can just ship both clips out. Like you can just send both of them out and they'll both find their own audience of people who like your content, right? And now you can literally just saturate every single position on like like the ideological Punnett square thing. You can do all of them. You can just have everybody who likes your personality in all political realms say like, yeah, I consume Donald Trump's content or whatever. And then if they see one of the other clips that they don't agree with later on, they'll just be like, no, dude, like he just misspoke there, or like, you don't get it, he's saying something different, trust me, I know this guy, he's based, let me go.
Well, now like all of these things are being filtered through influencers and or people who have a large following, right? Like if you have a brand today, right? Like if you want to promote a startup or if you want to promote whatever product, you know the number one mechanic for people is just to find a bunch of influencers to get them to talk about it. Like
Yep.
now there's another set of potentially more distributed gatekeepers, but still those have not disappeared in any sense. And I think politicians are well aware, venture capital firms are well aware, startups are well aware, anybody building anything. And man, the idea of the influencer becoming so powerful is just a ridiculous thing. Like, uh, I don't know. I think about this a lot. Is that before I used to just talk about the zeitgeist and culture and AI and tech. But now, I feel a sense of like, wow, I can kind of influence the world too by what I say and how I say it and how I understand things. And that is a legitimately powerful thing for anything because wow, I can start to add my influence or my perspectives back into the world, and then they sort of get folded into the zeitgeist in many ways, and that is a either ridiculous thing that I've never really was like, wow, is that's not even possible, or just a new normal. And I think it's just insane to even think about how these accounts are just how many accounts do you think on Twitter control the zeitgeist?
Like 100.
Yeah, like 200 to 300, like I was saying at the
It's
start.
very few.
Yeah, it's very few, man.
I mean, that is quite.
It's very few. And then the other thing is like not only is it very few, but like many of these are in very similar sim clusters and talk to each
Right, they're
other
all
as
in the
well,
same four
right?
group chats when it comes down to it. Like there's
Roughly,
four
yeah.
group chats you could draw a circle around that have every single one of these people in them
Well, if you
total.
got now, I mean, holy shit, guys, just put this together. A few hundred people are able to proliferate a narrative into the world, into a medium where the world's most powerful people are listening. Ridiculous. When was ever that was never the
I just
case.
assume it's always kind of been this way.
It was
We've
never
just
this
had
way.
what we considered the world was just smaller, right? Like I just assume that it's all been group chats and they've been acting on like progressively larger. It's like
I think it was like this, but it was more institutionalized, right? It was like the New York Times, and
Oh,
now instead of the New York Times, it's like Rune and Signal and Growing Daniel and like whatever other 250 accounts, and so it feels less organized. And even for a lot of people who control these accounts and have a ton of power, which is funny, it's kind of like very woke language, right? Like you almost expect. Yeah, if I say that, you almost expect it to be in like a Twitter blog that's talking about like how dangerous this is to democracy or something. Um, but it's like not their main thing, right? Or like it's become a complementary part of their main thing, but it's not really their main thing.
yeah. Going back,
Um,
this is a great point, by the way. Going back to our previous thing is like the we were talking about capitalism and the incentive structures. The other aspect from an outcome perspective is that capitalism drives power laws and power law outcomes. And the fact that a few hundred accounts, maybe even less, have this ability to control the narrative is also just a simple power law outcome. Like it now we've talked about the distributions and how they normalize or how they equilibrium, and y- yet this is another area where a handful of individuals aggregate almost all of the attention, which is absolutely
And it keeps
remarkable if you think about it. And even on Instagram, there's 1,000 accounts that maybe get most of the views. There's another fun fact. Okay, if you on Google search, um, 90% of traffic is sent to 128 domains.
that makes
That's it.
sense, yeah.
I mean, it's a
Like we
highly
had this idea when the
power law
internet came
thing.
out that it was going to be like this big wild west of sprawling, somewhat like equally popularized domain names, and then in actuality, it's like Facebook,
Yeah.
like
And
Facebook,
why is
Instagram,
that? Because
Reels.
it's easy to use, it's easy to digest, it's easy to understand, and what has capitalism done? It removed all the friction for accessing it. It's a great mobile app. It works fast. It has infinite scroll. It is highly visual. It gives you exactly what you want. The algorithm is incredibly powerful. It strikes at the thing that you care about so quickly. If you're going through a breakup, it's going to show you some breakup content. If you're going through XYZ, it's going to do that. I mean, that is remarkably insane, and that's operating at scale. It is just hard to even think about. And I think most people don't really, they just utilize it. But I haven't seen anybody talk about it well enough from a technology and culture perspective. Um, even thing like an infinite scroll, right? Like the infinite scroll changed the entire dynamics of how humans operated on the internet uh, at scale. Like I would say the infinite scroll probably added maybe a half a trillion, maybe a trillion market cap on Facebook, right? Like
well, and then even TikTok did was the purveyors of like the next thing, right? Which was not just not just like the infinite scroll, but the
oh yeah,
autoplay,
yeah.
right? The short form autoplay. Like I think the short form autoplay and the reason why all these short form apps you feel a lot of like user regret after using them and it's so hard to get off of it is because it's basically a slot machine for content where like the cost of pulling the lever is like, oh, I'll just look at this for 5 seconds and if it's boring I'll close the app. But then it's like, wait, I can just pull that same lever again and see if like the next 60 seconds are interesting and maybe the next 60 seconds aren't interesting. And so you're all the time getting flashed with this new content and determining in 5 seconds whether it's interesting to you or not. And that feels low cost because the act of searching takes so little time. Whereas, like on the other hand, like you open the Netflix homepage and like it takes time sometimes to like find what movie you want to watch, right? Like what's interesting, like oh, nothing to watch on the Netflix homepage. Whereas TikTok just takes that decision process away from you. It's like no, you're not going to choose what to watch. You're just going to choose do I like what I'm currently watching or what's new. And obviously, you can't do this with a movie,
It
right?
is
You
it
can't
is
be
so
swapping a
funny
movie
that the
every five
person who like
seconds.
exclusively watches movies can meaningfully flex that they have a higher level of agency than the person who spends the same amount of time watching YouTube shorts every day, just like autopilot.
Do you guys remember the famous Netflix algorithm contest, right? The sort of they had a whole prize about improving the Netflix algorithm, and they had like a whole thing about basically Netflix wanted to be the best place to figure out what you should watch next, and they had the whole incentive for the algorithm. And turns out, the greatest way to remove all that friction was to just don't even tell you what's possible, just show you, and then you just go to the next thing.
Yeah, just show
And
you
it's just
something right away,
capitalism
right?
removing friction again, right? Like it's time and time again. If there are any barriers to entry or there's friction, people have an economic incentive to remove that friction, which is generally a good thing. And sometimes it's a bad thing. But
I think the
Totally
problem
true.
is
I,
that
I think I
it's
disagree
always an
maybe with like
IQ filter
generally
and not
good.
in the cool way, right? Like removing friction is inherently an IQ filter.
tell me more. What do you mean by that?
Like what we're saying, right? Like in order to actually be able to type out, like now you have the idea of like you have to like introspect and think about what you might like. You have to think about how you would prompt the search engine to give you content that fits into this role. and you have to type it in, right? Like all of these are separate skills that get obliterated when you just have infinite self-prompting driven by you poking a screen once or twice in a different direction, right?
Damn, Lucas,
Like
you're
you do you,
promoting our product, bro. But in some sense, we're making AI as accessible and useful as a scrolling a feed in some sense. But I think
so
we're mindful of
I
all
have a
that.
question about your product actually. I meant to ask this before.
Please.
Uh So Gemini is going to be implemented into iOS, and I think the Apple ecosystem pretty heavily. It appears that they're really going for something pretty deeply tied based on the fact that like they've announced this partnership a month or two ago and still nothing has shipped. So it doesn't look like they're just rolling out Gemini 3 Pro to the iPhone, right? Uh, do you have any
Apple
idea
has
what?
managed to do nothing
You know,
and win
Apple.
for like a
It's
while,
funny.
man.
Apple Intelligence was announced 2 years ago, and almost like I think a little bit of it has shipped and whatnot. And I think the underlying thing about consumer products is when big companies approach consumer products, they really have to take a very large macro lens and cater to 2 billion people that are utilizing it and make sure it works well for everybody, and it's kind of a least or common denominator type situation when they build products. And they can't take as many risks. They have to be really thoughtful and almost kind of generic element. They can't be bold about it, really. And I think that's the premise of why startups can exist. And so, I mean, to your point, they are integrating it. I think Siri is going to get much, much smarter. You're going to be able to talk to it, you leverage all of that stuff. Great. I think what we're focused on is kind of like the end user interfaces and the experiences around how normal individuals might be able to access and utilize um, what in Silicon Valley we're referring to as autonomous AI, which is like agents, right? Like agents that kind of just run and do things. And it's a profoundly difficult problem to make that functional, work well. Like nobody's solved this problem yet, right? Like there's no agents in ChatGPT. There's nothing like that in Claude. And I think the closest version of this is OpenClaw, which runs on your texts or whatever or through Telegram. But it's a very monumentally difficult problem to get right, to make it work and make it useful. And Apple has a lot of customers and a lot of people focused on them, so they have to get right, and it's going to take time. But yeah, I mean, I think we're doing something slightly different. We're looking at the interfaces. We're kind of more forward thinking. Where Apple has to really make the core functionality work. Like if you ask Siri three things, Apple has to make that work. It's like tell me the weather, add this to my calendar, and then add this to my reminder at the same time. Like that is a very basic task that Siri fails at today, right? You cannot ask Siri more than one thing and it will do it. It just doesn't work.
We're big
So
Siri haters here. We're enormous Siri haters. We're actually we've been somewhat shocked by the like feature stripping of Siri over the last I don't know, like ever since its inception, what was it, the 4S or something?
mm,
And how it's like actually meaningfully, despite now having access to like LLM supercomputer AGI technology, like it now is worse at telling you things about your calendar, right? Like
it
it just
is the
can't do
I mean,
anything.
it's just a neglected product, and I think it wasn't a priority. I think, you guys know the history behind Siri, right? Like Steve Jobs, there was like a little D all things Dup conference, and there was a small company called Siri presenting there, and Steve Jobs apparently, I don't know if he saw it there, but I think that he was asked there, and he was like, yeah, he quietly went to the founders and said, you should join Apple or whatever, and I think those guys, it was his pet project, and I think ever since Jobs no longer there, I think the focus on Syria was just less and less and less over time.
That's extremely depressing. So you're saying that like we actually instead of just like Apple totally neglecting AI for the last like decade, we would have had pet project AI designed by Steve Jobs had he not tried to like self-cure his cancer with like esoteric soul
I
bra raw
actually,
meat remedies.
dude, I made a post about this. I was like, wait, what would the world look like if Jobs was still around? And what would Apple look like? How would Apple be different? Like, would Steve Jobs and realized what AI really was, which was the ultimate bicycle for the mind, more so than the computer and the phone itself. And went out and bought an AI lab or even did something more radical, maybe even missed the boat. Who knows? But the point being is, it's really interesting thought exercise to be able to think about where Apple would be had Jobs still been around and AI had finally come around, because AI is the true bicycle for your mind. Like that is exactly what the bicycle for the mind is, more so than anything else Jobs referred to as the bicycle for the mind. Like AI is the de facto canonical um, metaphor that fits really well. I mean, the sort of bicycle for the mind metaphor fits really well. And so, I mean, it's just a really fascinating thing about would Apple have acquired Anthropic early? Would Apple have acquired something else? Would they have had their own models? And would, iOS devices be really, really smart? The computer would be really different right now, or the Mac OS would be very different. Uh,
I mean,
just
Siri
like,
would work, right? Like Siri would like this is the big thing for me is I was always kind of in this boat of so like I was an Android user. Whenever I have the option to use whatever phone I have, whatever phone I want, and I don't have an employer forcing me to use an iPhone, I use an Android. Google Assistant in Android actually is very good. Like
yeah.
it's monumentally better than Siri. Like
Do you know what,
just
Lucas? Do you know what most people utilize the Google Assistant for? Like the top five, top 10 things or whatever?
I assume it's like
Hot
emails,
woman near
editing your
me.
ex out of photos,
No, no,
doing
no. It's
some
very basic shit, dude. It's like, what's the time? What's the weather? Like it is incredibly insane. All the things that are very sophisticated as products, the high order bit or the things that people utilize them for are insanely basic. I mean, goes back to our chat GPT and AI point, right? Which is like, hey, the capabilities of these products are enormous. They can do PhD level tasks and insane math problems. But yet here I am asking it about my relationship issues, or my summarizing my text or something like that,
well,
or
and nobody knows
writing.
too. Like this is also like the bull case for your product, but it's also how like it's already been tested for you, right? Is when the LLMs started answering your question and then giving you like suggestions for next steps at the bottom of the answer. That was the point when a lot of normal people were like, "Oh, oh, I get it. Like you can do all of this shit, right?"
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I remember talking to my mom when like Gemini suggested like two or three additional steps when she asked it some basic I don't know. It was some question about like the logistics of home ownership or something like that, and it suggested a few more things after that. And she was like, it never occurred to me that I could use it this way. In the same way that I assume the majority of things that your app can do are things that like, yeah, it's like it's technically very easy for an LLM to do, and they've probably been able to do it for like a year, but just the average person has never considered that it was possible. So unless this thing shows up and says, "Here it is, I've done it for you. Click on it if you like it," they just will never know.
Dude, it's insanely powerful, right? Like, I mean, if you think about what AI really is, like right now it's being sort of, I mean, Google's really famous for this, is that they're just adding AI to everything. You know that guy, what's that guy called? Salt Bay, whatever, and he's just adding salt to everything all the time, or whatever. And then there's like a meme about Google's just AI
Google's
here.
adding AI of like varying levels of integration to everything too, which is like like you can tell like which department heads get along with each other better or worse than others
Oh, dude,
because
it's
like
all, you could tell it's like they're shipping the org chart oftentimes, right? Like you can tell that there's like a lot of conflicting products and conflicting elements. Who should do productivity AI? Should it be Google Labs or should it be Google Workspace? These are two different organizations. Should it be like, and so all of these companies have such a radical complexity to them that it's hard for them to do things well. And even when they do them, it's hard for them to communicate those things. And even if they communicate it well, then there's these conflicting incentive structures, and the continuity levels are different and whatnot. So, I mean, this is why it's so beautiful to have, we're three people, man. We have three people. We've raised less money than the salary of the compensation package of a typical OpenAI product manager. Like we have very little capital, and we're having a lot of fun here, and we're building something that I think we personally would love to utilize. And that's how I think about it. And every consumer product has to be that way, and we don't have to deal with the complexities of large organizations. We don't have to deal with having to deal with 2 billion users. We don't have to deal with metrics. We don't have to deal with revenue. We don't have to deal with any of
Well,
these
also
things.
you're 3 employees, right? I mean, obviously there's you. I assume you're like product slash CEO. What are the other 2 employees? Is like someone who's pretty
Designer and an
far
engineer.
forward into. Got you. And yeah, that's one of the things that's interesting is like I actually think design, like high end design, will become super expensive.
It is. I think
Um,
design is.
I think low end design will basically go away as like a thing that humans do, and we'll have like AI slop websites basically and AI slop apps. And I think like truly high end design will actually become more
My
expensive.
you guys know, I would say my contrarian view is that AI slop is not really like it's visible and people are kind of annoyed by it, but actually, you know, I would much rather have AI build a lot of things than humans build a lot of things. I would much rather have AI write a lot of things than humans write a lot of things, you know?
This is
I
another
think AI
recurring bit that
slop
we've
is
had on the
like
show, which is the concept of like AI did not invent slop, right? Like you
Yeah,
can go and
slop
you
has
can
been
find a
around for
person.
yeah.
I mean, there's a person out there who's been posting AI slop since like 2005, right? And if you
yeah,
would
the
show
people who
someone
posted
their
like
posts, everyone would be
return
like
the text
100% AI
return text
generated.
return.
Y- y-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did send the cost of generating said slop to zero and like multiplied it by a million times over, right? But it obviously existed before. I yeah, it's certainly like interesting. I think AI slop. The reason people dislike it is the same reason people dislike premium mediocre, which is like, well, I've tasted the actually premium stuff and it feels so much better. And it's like, okay, but are you willing to pay the actually premium prices? And it's like, no. And it's like, well, then either get the like the premium mediocre is the best thing you're willing to pay for, it
We should
appears.
we should charge
Um,
$999 a month for our AI product just to
I think you'll have people. I think that will be. I think $100 is like will start to be a common price point
Yeah, I
actually
think so
for
too. And I
SaaS.
think it actually delivers more value than that. You know,
I do think it'll be $100 with like AI usage included, right? Like it's $100 and you don't have to like fork over your API
yeah,
keys.
yeah, exactly. And I think generally
Um,
most people look like I don't know, most of the individuals in the world who have not experienced AI at any given scale beyond just a few messages to ChatGPT, um, don't know that the value structures of this stuff, and this all has to be demonstrated. I mean, guys, we're so fucking early in everything. Like it's just ridiculous. I mean, I think we on X and Twitter or whatever, like, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. And 80% of the people have not really experienced AI in any meaningful way.
Everybody thinks you're a huge if you try having like a singularity based freak out at any normal person, they're just like, wow, like this is like Lucas, you're renowned for having like freakouts, but even this is a little far.
Most people have some
Right?
very basic problems to deal with beyond, I think the American lifestyle. So, um, the a lot of the basic problems in America have been almost entirely solved, right? Like you can go buy a hamburger for 99 cents.
No, no, no. This is a scam now. Our hamburgers are expensive. They
It's,
did get us with that.
yeah, it's true that,
We can go you can go and what you can buy is a 62-inch OLED TV for 99
oh
cents,
my,
but unfortunately the hamburger cost
oh yeah, the
$5.
TV prices have been so crazy, man. Okay, I will say this to counteract some of this. You know how people are like, "Oh my God, who eats McDonald's? Like, why would people?" I was driving and I went to the Costco experiment or the Walmart, and there was a McDonald's outside, and there was a few other fast food places, Taco Bell, whatnot. Guess which one had the largest drive-through line? It was McDonald's. Like
Yep.
ridiculous. Like it was like on the street. And I'm like, "Oh my God, like the demand for McDonald's is still ridiculous." And when you talk to my friends or our world, like, "Oh my God, you eat McDonald's? That's so disgusting." But yet here are like lots and lots of individuals and people are McDonald's eaters. But again, I think the macro point I would make here is that our world in X and Twitter is not real. Like we're
We're all
experiencing something
insane
very
weird
different.
freaks. Nobody else cares about the singularity I've found.
They don't
Like
even know what it is. I mean, if you asked
Relentlessly asking my girlfriend about the singularity and her opinions on it, only to be ignored for the 475th time, just continues to
what does she
happen.
like to talk about, Lucas?
Nothing. And this is hypothetical. I would never date a woman. That's fucking disgusting. So it's
Um,
but
you
uh
you're actually you're part of the majority there, Lucas.
I know I do believe that we are about to enter the golden age of homosexuality. For many reasons.
When was the last golden age of homosexual?
Rome. Probably Rome.
I thought it was like ancient Greece.
I think the Romans were significantly less gay than the Greeks, man.
I don't know. I'm not one of those right wing guys who knows anything about history. Like I just when you say Rome, Greek, I'm like, oh, these are the statue countries, right? Like these are where they have the statues.
These are the PFP.
Yeah, that's where the profile
statue
pictures
PFPs.
came from. It's where they grew them. Do you think we get AGI? Do you think we do it? Are we gonna AGI hard takeoff like the world has changed? We developed Star Trek in 3 years type shit, or is it like
I think it's a dumb
nothing ever
question
happens
in
because
some
everyone
sense.
is slow? Like the normal people are still eating at McDonald's, even despite knowing all of the health risks of sunflower oil or whatever the fuck. They continue eating at McDonald's. None of this matters.
That's because the McDonald's presentation layer is incredibly amazing, dude. They abstract away everything. You know, you don't know how the chicken was killed, or you don't know how that beef patty was prepared, and it just has an incredible amount of great things like tastes like salty and just a umami flavor.
It's just the premium mediocre formula is like really good,
And they've
right?
hyper optimized the shit out of it. I guess going back to your point, Lucas.
And it's always the same thing, also, right? It's
Oh,
like like you go to a McDonald's and you know exactly what you're
well, did you
getting.
know the whole premise of
Versus,
McDonald's was that it was opened up on highways, and when people were traveling, you would just like get off, and you know exactly what to expect. Whereas before, in the back in the days when the highways were being built, you go to a random diner and you know what the fuck you're gonna get. And the consistency aspect. Oh, okay. Here's the fourth layer of capitalism. We've talked about reduction of friction. We've talked about increasing supply, creating demand. The fourth element of capitalism is consistency. So it creates a consistent experience. All the Starbucks feel similar. All the McDonald's, the food is exactly the same, no matter if you order it in Tokyo or Podunk, Kansas, or whatever. Like the capitalism, uh, because there's the sort of efficiency aspect of it. It creates a consistent layer because consistency is actually economically better from a supply perspective. It reduces costs. It makes processes better. It makes the supply chain much easier.
It's
Uh,
also just so much less frustrating to deal with. Like, do you remember in the early days of tech where you would buy a product and it's like it would actually meaningfully matter, like the binning of a chip that was in it? Like people would be like, "Yeah, I hope I got one of the good processors, bro. If I got one of those fucking shit ones,
there's a
I'm gonna be
great
real mad."
Steve Jobs thing around this, is that the way that Apple thought about the world was, and he's like, we don't think in MIPS and BIPS. Like, we don't think about megahertz, and we don't think about all this stuff. We don't market our products in a way that people would be like confused. It's like, this has 25 gig, 26, 28 gigs. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, the point being is,
It was the
um,
Android thing. It was when Android was talking about how they have 320 cores and
yeah,
iPhones were
it's like
like,
this stuff
"What the fuck
does
is a
not
core?"
matter, right? Like, normal people don't give a fuck about this. And so Steve Jobs was the guy who was like, okay, well, we're not going to market in this way because it makes no sense. And all, by the way, during that time, during the whole Mac versus PC era, every single thing about a Dell computer was around like, this has 1600 megahertz. This has, 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's so powerful, and it has Intel inside, and nobody like, who gives a shut the fuck up, right? I just
Well,
want to use a
also
great
nobody
product.
knows what a megahertz is. That was the
Exactly.
craziest part of that entire era. Like I had many years of conversations with people where they were telling me that it's this many megahertz versus this many, and like just as like a fun thing, I would always ask them, "What does any of this mean?"
Yeah.
And no, they're like, "It's the speed." You're
Dude,
like, "I
it was
guess." Like,
fascinating. And if you were to take like a hardware or like a processing class in college or whatever, the previous era's computing was all driven by clock speed, which is what megahertz is, right? You had this ability to increase the clock speed over and over again until you got to like, I think we got to like 4 megahertz or 3.5, oh no, 3.5 gigahertz or something like that. Remember, all these computers would come out and it's like the Intel processors. And then, you can't really increase the clock speed anymore. So now they started marketing all the cores. So we have like 6 cores or, 8 cores or whatever. And then that era ended in terms of scaling. I think still sort of matters in some sense, but it was a fascinating world of how people marketed technology. Again, all of this stuff is more of an art than a science. Like, how do you tell people about how fast something is, or how like my latest fascination is like the latest product, MacBook Neo, that Apple launched,
Do you
right?
like
Like,
that thing? What do you think of it?
dude, it
I
is
was I
probably one
was
of the most
very
game changing products. And the thing
I
about
fully
Apple
believe
is
it's a
that,
game-changing product, but I'm just like, dude, I'm on a 36 gigabyte MacBook Pro right now
yeah,
trying to
you're
do
not the
like
customer
editing and
for it.
shit. I crush that memory all the time. Like I'm always swapping, man. I
Yeah,
cannot imagine anyone doing anything like it.
Lucas.
I mean, doesn't Mac OS boot in like 6.7 gigabytes just like base? Uh,
Well,
so it's
I
like
think
you
there
open
is.
Safari.
Well, that's what the beautiful part is. I think if you look at markets, Apple has never operated in the sort of lower end of the market. They've always been. I think there's a famous Steve Jobs quote. He said, we don't know how to make a computer that's $500 that's not pure junk. He literally said that. Like, we don't know how to do that. And because we don't know how to do that, we're fucking not going to do it. And they never did. But now, with the economies of scale that Apple has, the ability to be really nimble and flexible, having their own hardware, particularly the processing or the M series chips, all of this stuff makes that world accessible. And so Apple is now, you can tell, traveling down market. It's making things that are normally they would never have touched. A $500 computer that is actually really incredibly good. It it just obliterates all of the competition at the lower end.
Well, and then on
iPhone.
the other end, like while you have Apple doing all of this, you also just have the absolute exponential decay of Windows, right? Like that's the flip side of the coin. Apple is just mogging everything. Everything that they have done has been golden, perfect move recently. And
It's
then you're just
fascinating
like,
how
how the
much. Yeah, sorry.
I was just it's just crazy how shitty Windows is at literally everything. Like every single product that they make, just gets worse and worse and worse. And Windows as an
I
operating
don't think
system,
Apple's doing anything particularly good. I just think they're one of the few people not like really shooting themselves in the foot. I don't think anyone's like particularly feels like any Apple update is getting a lot better than the
Well,
previous
I
ones.
think.
Like the last good update I can think of is when they started automatically grabbing the SMS codes
I mean,
yep.
when you needed to like verify in
but
an
but it's
app.
okay. Let's just. This is a great. I mean, holy fuck, guys! That's a small thing, but it makes a profound difference in everyday life. Like that SMS thing, right? Like, why? And nobody else did that first, right? Like, it was actually really
I'm pretty sure
fascinating.
Android actually did that one first. I might be wrong, but
Is
I'm
that
pretty
right?
sure this
I
is
don't
another.
know, but I
I
experienced it. I'm not an Android person, but in general, all of these things, I think the biggest attribute of Apple is it has still intense focus. They're very much a company that says we're not going to do this, and there are very few companies that do that. I mean, take a look at OpenAI. Like, OpenAI has tried to do and be everything in the last year, 2 years. I mean, to the extent that they had to, like, quote unquote, kill side quests, whatever that means, right? And focus is very difficult. Saying no to things is very difficult, particularly in a what's next type world where everybody has ADHD. Everybody wants to focus on what's next and what's new. Um, Having intense focus is very challenging. It's like taking a lot of Adderall, and um, Apple is really good at that. And still, I think it should be credited in terms of what it chooses not to do more than what it chooses to do. Now, the products, not iterating or, not great. Sometimes, yeah, that's true. But generally, they create a great experience. And going back to your Windows point, right? Like the reason why Windows is just not good is because the person that's buying Windows is not the end user. Most of Windows software is sold through enterprises and businesses top down. So the person experiencing Windows doesn't is
Yep,
not
this is the
is
huge thing.
not
It's the user is not the person who's like
yeah,
at the
they're not
desk and
putting
has
their
to deal with
wallet.
all the crap that Windows does. It's like the real user is a person who's buying for a 10,000 person
Exactly.
organization,
And
right? Or they're already locked in because Excel has become like standard, and for whatever reason, like Google Sheets or whatever doesn't have exact like minutia feature parity.
exactly.
I do think that's kind of under attack with like Claude Code and ChatGPT are pretty good at running through and doing basic Excel monkey stuff. Um, I will say, I think I think with the side quest thing, I think that's usually cope when a company's like we're doing too many side quests. I think the real issue with doing too many side quests is whatever executive is at the top is not comfortable delegating these things fully to people, and so you waste a lot of time at the executive at the top. Like obviously what's going on with OpenAI is like they feel like Anthropic is eating their lunch, right? On like it seems that most people who are in the know like the Anthropic Claude product better than the ChatGPT
Well,
product.
why? Why do you think that is?
I don't.
I'm not. I think it's a combination of things. I think people like Claude's personality more than
Okay.
ChatGPT is probably the biggest driver. I think there's like a couple smaller drivers, but beyond like the why that might be, I think that's why they're saying, "Hey, we don't want to do side quests." But I think a big part of the story of like Apple, Twitter, Meta, Microsoft, these big organizations is like hiring 10,000 engineers is not necessarily a positive productivity thing for your organization,
Definitely.
right?
People think
Um,
productivity scales linearly with people, at least before the AI era, and that's difficult. That's not necessarily the case. Maybe that it definitely doesn't scale linearly, um, but I guess I mean focus is so important. I feel like a CEO should be defined by what they do not do versus what they do do. I think that's actually the most important metric for a company, and the mission of the company is to figure out what you are good at. And I mean, kudos to Anthropic. I know you guys think I'm an Anthropic shill, and maybe I am, but the point
No,
being
no, no, no,
is
no. To be clear, you are an Anthropic shill. You are an unpaid shill, though, right? Which
that
is an
I am
important
unpaid.
distinction to be made.
when we
I,
say
in the
shill,
same
yeah,
way,
we don't
No, no,
mean
no. I
that
don't
like
mean it
there's something
negatively. I was just
malicious
trying to make fun
here.
of
yeah,
myself in some ways. But I think,
I am an OpenAI shill. Because
but
I
it,
like that they've named every product Codex, which is really funny. Like I
you,
like having 16 different products. All you're like, oh fuck, we made this new thing. What do we call it, dude? If only there were some solution. If only there were a way. Just use the same name
But
we've been shipping, man.
But what I was gonna say about the side projects thing is, I just think like the idea that like side projects are really taking all this energy from your organization is wrong. Like it's not that there's a bunch of people at OpenAI that are like working on things that aren't the core product, and that's what's going wrong. What's going wrong is like someone just doesn't have the juice, right? And or like they're not willing to make certain choices that Anthropic is willing to make. It's almost always one of those two things. And the real issue with side projects is like that's taking Sam or whoever's time, but really, that's because he doesn't trust the people under to do this. And then it's also like very funny, obviously, the timing around like they acquire, an independent media brand for like, low hundreds of millions while saying like no more side projects.
yeah, that's a
Yeah, it is
fascinating
always
And
this.
I
It's
think
acquisition.
always
no more side projects is
100% of the
like probably a
time someone
mistake
is like, we have
also.
to get rid of the side projects. It's literally just saying like we don't have competent enough actors to carry these side projects autonomously, and it's
Yes.
blowing
But
my foot off,
I
right? Trying
think
to deal
the
with them.
thing about side projects, it's more than competence. I don't know. Actually, it's not about competence at all. I think generally when you bifurcate attention in terms of what you're doing, you have too many people, too many different types of customers, too many different types of users, too many things that have to work well with each other. And that's actually non-trivially difficult to get right. I mean, look, I think a good example of this is, OpenAI built a Sora social network app, right? And that thing is a phenomenally different product, a different headspace. It requires a different everything. And okay, beyond all of this, by the way, the reason why side quests are challenging is because every AI company is roughly bottlenecked by one resource, which is compute. You cannot allocate compute in meaningful ways across everything. There's just not enough of it. In fact, that's a huge bottleneck. When you start having side quests that require compute, like a Sora, I mean, that's a profoundly like, oh, it takes up resources, it burns compute. We can't dedicate it to something else. We can't really.
I think the bigger waste of time than the compute, because the compute in some ways is kind of, all counter-signaling pretty hard here. I think the compute is kind of a footnote for Sam, where like Sam has clearly made the decision that they're going mass market. And so it's like we're going mass market. That's part of, you know, the intangibles whenever we raise money from whoever. And then also a lot of the compute, like these companies are not actually paying for it. Because what happens is like Amazon goes like, "Hey, we're investing $50 billion in OpenAI," and then OpenAI takes those $50 billion and
Totally,
spends it
totally.
on
That's not what
Amazon
I'm saying. But
compute,
I think
right?
there's still a bottleneck, right?
I think what is waste of time is like spending time on decisions that relate to like a social network, like doing social
Yeah.
network, you know, like back end infrastructure, etc. That probably is a waste of time. Um, but yeah, I'm with Lucas. Like I think anytime people go like we have to stop doing these side projects, it's either like an executive team that is unwilling to delegate things, or you know, in one way or another, whether it's because they're right and the people below them just can't handle those things and their primary objectives, or because you know they just can't let go of the you know decision making process and they're like obsessive on owning every part of it.
And I think yeah, I think radically okay, beyond all of that, even if you do get it right, the messaging becomes much more difficult. Like what your mission is much more difficult to explain. Like who do you stand for? What do you do? What like if you do everything and it's almost unclear of what your mission is, how you
Anthropic
how
was
you
quite
operate.
good at this.
Look, I mean,
Anthropic just
Anthropic,
said we're going to make the best robo coders,
you
right?
know
And
why,
then from
Lucas?
there,
Because LLMs are really good at coding. I mean, it is a profoundly important element. And by the way, there's a giant fucking market for coding because software engineers are getting paid $1 million or whatever compensation because
were
coding was such a huge bottleneck. And so not only was there a it's basically the most incredible product market fit where LLMs are able to produce code in such a high quality, high vector way that it's profoundly weird that OpenAI didn't focus on coding until Anthropic really showed them the way, which was like Claude Code. And then OpenAI came back and said, okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to cut all the side quests. We're going to focus on Codex, and Codex is going to be a first class experience. And we're going to devote all of these resources because A, there's an economic thing where there's a huge demand for it. B, the LLMs make it work really well. And Anthropic showed, holy shit, you know who fucking pays for this? All the fucking enterprises. They're going to pay a lot of money for coding because software engineers are expensive. Everything was just it was like a puzzle piece. It was like a three-theme puzzle piece. It was obvious in some sense, now with hindsight. And Anthropic really saw that earlier and they focus on it. I mean, kudos to them. Like Claude Code really is like part of the zeitgeist. When people are in
it was
enterprises, they use the word Claude Code more than they do use Codex. Weirdly enough,
it was such a weird thing to watch because like OpenAI actually I think achieved a very weird accidental inverse goal, which is that OpenAI through the process of just doing every product possible like Sora, Chat GPT, like all of these other things, I think they actually confused the world about what AI was and what it can be used for by spitballing so many things, right? Like, I think if Anthropic had been the big mass consumer adoption one, people would have a better, more clear picture of what this thing was good at. And all of this weird Sora, social network stuff, etc., wound up basically just confusing a bunch of average soccer moms about what any of this did or how it could be used, right?
yeah,
Because,
just
like,
because OpenAI tried to do everything, right? They try to do everything. By the way, in history, like where have we seen somebody build a consumer and an enterprise company simultaneously? Like which company does that? Like I can't think of one. I mean,
I
Microsoft
don't know.
maybe
I'm
with
not the
Xbox or
history guy
whatever.
here, man. I don't
Yeah,
even know what
but if you
Rome
think
is.
about it, it's an enormously difficult task to build a consumer company at scale and then have an
I
enterprise
think
element
people
to it.
people always say this, that they think like consumer is so difficult. I'm actually not sure I agree with this. I think the
Hmm.
issue is just
We are
there's more
podcasters, so we might just be
things.
uniquely tuned for consumers, right?
Wait, why? I'm
That might
curious.
be
I'm curious to
true.
get your thoughts here. Why do you think consumers not
Yeah,
difficult?
I think this is like one of the mega cope
Sure.
things that people always say. And I think the big problem here is that consumers just don't want to buy that many different things. So there's less markets to go after. It's not that consumer is in and of itself more difficult. It's just that like the normal human experience is like relatively condensable, and there's only so many products you need, right? Like you only need a map product, a search product, a communications product, like a money product, or maybe like two
Podcast
money
products.
products. Yeah, certainly very important. Maybe you need a bunch of podcast products for all the different platforms you're listening to the Plausibly Deniable experience on. That's for certain. Um, but like you just don't need that many products. Whereas for enterprise, like things become much more niche and much more specialized. It is true that like enterprise revenue tends to be a little bit more um, like the average small medium business will not like abuse like free trials or whatever. That is true. But I think a lot of times when people say like, oh, consumer is so hard, so hard, I don't think it's actually that consumer is so hard. I think the problem is you're trying to create a new product category, and there just isn't that much stuff that like normal people want to do. So when you try to create Sora and you go like, wow, that was so hard because it was consumer, it's like, no, what was hard was getting people to go into an app titled AI Slop images and videos and like consume that. But actually, like, I don't even think it's that hard. Like, there's probably a bunch of like Facebook moms that are like basically consume exclusively like AI minion slop right now. It's just what is the big like unlock there in that specific case is like people are okay with consuming AI slop. They're just not okay with like admitting to themselves. It's like Starbucks, right? You don't want to admit to yourself you're getting a milkshake, so you buy quote unquote a
You want to
coffee,
go to the video
right?
store and accidentally
Um,
get shot with the slop cannon, right? You don't want to sign in to
yes.
Slop R Us.
You don't, yeah, exactly. You're like walking by the Blockbuster and you randomly see, the scandalous, movie where like Kate Upton has her boobs out. You didn't walk in looking for that, right?
You're right. I
Um,
think
but I just don't think I don't think consumers that much harder. Actually, I think this is like common cope. It's just that people try really, really hard to sell things to people who don't need things, whereas the blue ocean space for enterprise is a lot larger.
wait. I
Um,
would
Creating demand for consumer markets is very because for business you can almost always find some visionary, like this is the other really funny thing about like the enterprise market is once you get a smart and high openness enough person, if they like you, they will just like talk themselves into believing that they need whatever the product it is that you're selling to them, right? Like you can totally do this as a sales engineer all the time. If you're doing this to your average soccer mom, it's much, much harder to convince them that they actually need something that they already know that they don't need, I think.
the markets and consumer are seemingly larger, right? Because you have a large population,
But
TAM's
they're
huge,
broker and they're more annoying and they don't pay you
and they're
anything,
very
yeah.
fickle, and it's hard to like get their attention. And
I think that's also part of it is like at enterprise when you're starting off, like think about your modal like enterprise founder, right? Has probably worked at a couple companies, has like some goodwill built up, is raising from a couple VCs. You can convince 20 companies, especially because none of these people are actually technically spending their money, or they don't feel like they're
Yeah.
spending their money. They feel like they're spending like VC money, or they're spending like the money that is like some large consumer brand's money. So like the individual person who's buying your like enterprise resource planning B2B SaaS is like, oh yeah, I know Sela. He used to work with me. Like, yeah, I'll buy his product. And all of these products are scams anyways, because what's happening with these products is like you have how much it costs to sell the product and then how much value it adds. And the gap between these two things is so large. Like how much does the marginal instance of Windows cost or of Office cost Microsoft? Zero, right? That's the whole business model. That's what it's built off of. That the marginal cost of software is zero. And on the other hand, like the marginal value of Office to some investment bank is like infinity. Like they can't exist without it. And so the price has to be set somewhere in the middle. And so it's actually quite expensive. So you can actually have like a higher marginal cost than Microsoft and still be competitive because your marginal cost is not a relevant factor in the pricing conversation.
yeah, no, I think in general,
I mean, that was a lot of stuff,
yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
It's a fascinating world. I mean, like, I think there's a reason why YC has this kind of network effect, which is it draws founders and they create B2B software, and then there's demand from other companies to buy that B2B software. And then, you almost immediately have that traction or validation. You can test it with other companies and whatnot. So I think that community makes sort of B2B world much more valuable, or approaching B2B world much more valuable than, say, a consumer product, for example. Like, if you're a consumer product, you're typically not applying to Y Combinator, for example. But anyway, I think the macro thing is, yeah, it's going to be fun to see how well we can achieve um, some sort of product market fit when we sort of talk about what we're up to. I'm very excited for that. I think generally we're going to approach it in a very fun, friendly way. It's like a human story about why and why it matters in the world and why how it's going to iterate. Like, so that's that. I'm like deeply looking forward to that. That's going to be really fun.
Yeah, we can do a break whenever, man.
Okay.
We'll do like a 5 minute break.
Yeah. I'll come back.
The China live stream is she
The
gets
team
one
behind
dress
it, I think, is
shipped
way
down,
better.
she holds it up, moves to the
Yep.
next, averages 1.8 seconds per product shill, just keeps going.
It's actually quite incredible, man. And
Yeah.
those girls have like insane amount of audience.
Yeah, I don't understand. I never understood how like what are you even processing when you view that, right? Like I always assumed there must have been some massive amount of context that I was missing that was allowing all of these Asians to understand whatever the fuck she held up in 1.8 seconds in some way.
It's like
Uh
Lucas, it's like cooking videos, right? You're not watching cooking videos because you want to cook that thing. You probably never will cook it. But it's the entertainment value that results from it, right? Like, it's
really.
like Food Network.
'Cause I just don't watch like I'm like a notorious doesn't consume content at all guy.
Mm,
So I have this is like one of my areas of like extremely low theory of mind for anyone.
man, this is probably like a little dark thing to say, I guess, but in many ways, how people say that they don't have time for things. You know how like a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so busy, I don't have time for things or whatever. I think people have too much time on their hands, such that they have to allocate it somehow. And watching these videos is basically what I mean. The average American just comes home from work and watches TV and goes to bed.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I think it's basically like the average American comes home after a given amount of work. You have like cognitive resources that are middling to completely burned out. And you need to do something for 4 hours, right? So you're like, how do I expend like very low cognitive units for the next 4 hours, right?
yeah, and get the
Uh,
highest reward. And you know what delivers that? TikTok. That literally the ROI on like from a usage perspective is just insane. It's crazy. The dopamine per minute delivered is the highest that you can possibly get without exertion. Um,
I I
that to me
wonder
is really
what
fascinating.
so there's got to be some sort of like an alternative thing that you can do with this time that like if you were to instead do cardio, does this like somehow restore your brain more, or is it like these people are just like cooked when they come home from work and they need
Why
to
do you
do the
think
thing?
people are addicted to gyms and fitness? Like, what do you think
I think it feels good. It's like brain off. I think it's also, I do think it's like legitimately very good if you get into the rhythm of it. It's like very good for your circadian rhythm. Like I have a very hard time sleeping if I don't go to
how
the
do you
gym at this
think
point.
how do you think about most people? Do you think most people do fitness and health because they want to signal to other people, or they genuinely enjoy it, for both?
I think it's like I don't think they want to signal to other people. I think they want to like look
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I
Like
think
they
that
want
if
the
if you reframe
benefits.
like looking good as signaling to other people that you are healthy or
Oh,
something like that.
Then
oh,
Yeah.
looking
yes.
good is the
But
ultimate signal, isn't it? It is the de facto way humans process
yeah, but
anything.
I think when most people hear like signal to other people, what they hear is like you want to pretend that you really enjoy going to the gym. And I do think that's a category. I think there's like a category of person that does do
Guy who
that.
like
That like
looks like
pretends
he's
they
never
really like
picked up
going to the
weights in
gym.
his entire life and has a wardrobe composed of 100% of bodybuilding.com t-shirts.
I mean,
Many such
it is.
cases.
I mean, it's also highly mimetic, right? You see other people doing it, and there's like huge wellness industry, and all these wellness influencers exist, and the idea of wellness as a category is really fascinating to me. The fact that like there's an entire lifestyle and a model for what I mean, I don't even know what wellness means anymore, but the fact that all that exists at scale on on these platforms is remarkable.
It's so
Um,
funny to me that wellness now means anything from like I'm gonna go on a run this morning to like I'm gonna inject myself with like 40 cc's of Chinese horse tranquilizer that I got from this bathtub, right? Like anything in that entire bucket is now considered wellness. Uh and I
I
don't
don't
know,
think
like it's kind of funny because you have a huge portion of like the what was historically like the wellness community just blown up by all of these weight loss peptides just instantly. And they're not coping with it super well. Like it's almost the same thing as the coders. Like the coders, there's a specific type of like I don't want to say like code monkey, but like someone who didn't write like really high level infrastructure level code. Uh and they actually liked the act of writing code, and now they're realizing like, well, they actually took away most of this from me. Like I can do
yes.
code gen, and that's most of the time better for very simple stuff. And they're kind of sad about that. And I think these same people that like really enjoyed the process of like, I'm gonna diet and I'm gonna count my calories and I'm gonna do something that other people can't really do. Like I'm gonna flex my dedication muscle, and now it just gets injected, and like I think it took
It's
meaning
like
away
it
from their
causes a
life.
loss of
Yeah.
identity. I read this like very breathless piece about like, oh, the magic isn't there in like making products anymore. You know, I just tap the button and I don't feel anything. And it's like, yeah, man, like you fell in love with the process and not the end result, which is fine. And like maybe you do just enjoy like the act of coding or playing code golf or optimizing or creating performance systems. But like in theory, like we were building these things as products that people wanted to use, not like to build
well, it's
things,
like
right? Um,
imagine a farmer having to manually plow something, and then there's a tractor that does it, and now
I don't think anyone liked plowing. I think plowing,
There's a
it's like
guy,
very
dude.
funny.
There's a
There's like
guy. There's
two things
100% a
there's
that
guy.
almost
definitely
all of
somebody
the
that loved the
Amish.
shit out of this, bro. There's
No, there's actually very few. Like even so, you have the Amish, right? Who like reject all technology and live primarily in Pennsylvania. And there, if you live anywhere near there, that's where you have to get your like raw honey and your tallow or whatever, because they literally like it's against their religion to use like chemicals and stuff. Um,
I'm
and
just saying, like, either the
even
coder
the
thing.
one technology that the one technology that all of them have adopted across the whole spectrum is washing and drying machines. Or washing machines, not drying machines. Washing machines, every single Amish group has adopted, every single major Amish group has adopted washing machines. Even the ones who are like, no cars, no lights, like you're dying, you can't go to like a modern hospital, doesn't matter, fucking die. Even those people have adopted washing machines, which is like very funny. And then I think modern plowing equipment, almost all of them have, like 60 or 70% of them have adopted modern plowing equipment. It's super interesting to see these groups of people who are like, you know, very committed to being Luddites.
It's an identity.
Um,
Everything that people do is in service of their identity, and a job is just, in some sense, if been doing it for such a long time, you're getting good at it, and you're becoming really, a good coder, for example, that really becomes your identity. And suddenly something or a tool or a magical thing that comes along that does it incredibly well, better than you, even though you're at the top of your craft, that cannot feel good for a lot of individuals because it
It's
is
it's
inflicting
exactly
yeah.
upon their
this is exactly
identity.
what we were talking about before with the dating apps too, or with like let's say you start a company, right? Like you like startups, you have a 3-person startup, you do the thing. At some point you scale, and the things that you're doing on your day to day are no longer startup shit, right? You're now a CEO of a large
Yes.
corporation. You have to manage things that you've never once given a fuck about before, and you're like, this sucks. I want to go like sell this all and go run a donut
I want to
shop or
go
something,
back to
right?
when it was just like me and my
Yeah,
two
or you're like the
friends.
person who has been, you really liked the process of just dating women normally, walking up to them, saying hello, and then seeing where it goes. And now you've been forced into like checklist hell through all of the dating apps, and you're trying to date like 17 new women every month to meet your metrics and KPIs, and you're just like, ah, this sucks.
I think it's usually the reverse, isn't it? Where a lot of women are putting a lot of dudes through the ringer, right?
Yeah,
Like a
I was just flipping that one because it's like we've done a lot of sexism on our last episode, and it's like let's pretend that women aren't doing this bad thing for this episode. Just toss them a bone. But
again, for me, dude, one thing I have to emphasize, and I think this is actually a really important thing, which is, look, good and bad is, in some sense, yeah, there's an objective element to it, but maybe most of it's subjective. Like, what is good? What is bad? Like, is it really bad that
I will say, man, this is like a thing that only evil people
is
say.
that right?
Like, no good person, like, no good person is ever like, yeah, man, like, good, evil, killing innocent
Okay,
people,
there's like a baseline.
servicing supply and demand
There's a lot of there's a
problems.
lot of elements to it where, like, okay, I mean, I'm talking about the borderline shit. I'm not talking about obvious crap. Like, obviously you should never.
But that's the thing, man. Like, no one ever thinks their thing is the. Dude, like, very few, strikingly few people. It will surprise you how few people actually think they're evil. This is, like, uniquely a
But
thing
I
that.
don't. That's the
I won't
thing
say it's
is,
uniquely a thing that evil people say, but it is a thing that, like, no good person is ever, like, good, evil, who really
well, like, I think
knows,
in
man? I'm
general.
just doing what the invisible hand of the market
Well,
tells
in
me.
general, when you're evaluating the zeitgeist or talking about culture or the way that the things move in the world and how people behave or whatnot, look, they're driven by so many different factors, oftentimes outside of the control of the individual as well, right? Like, you don't know what the underlying motivational layers are, how the incentive structures work. So I guess my macro point is less about good and evil. It's that, but what are the motivations or the intentions behind somebody doing what they do? That is extremely fascinating. And for the way that I think about the world is I think about it in that dimension, which is, why does this work this way? Why is the culture this way? Why is this individual behaving this way? Why are these people getting Botox at, 17 years old or whatever, right? And look, do you think you could potentially think that it's really bad to get Botox at 17? And some people might think it's very good. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer there is. Maybe preventative Botox is real, and maybe preventative Botox is a thing, and it actually does prevent wrinkles or whatever. that that's kind of like the canonical way that I frankly like to evaluate the world, which is why, and how, more than like, let me be a judge, or let me judge this really quick.
No, and I agree with what you're saying. Like, obviously, I'm kind of, messing with you
Yeah,
a
yeah.
little bit. I think it's like, I think what I would say is usually you can tell when something's good or bad. And I think good people generally don't think about or aren't always like being neutral. But I do think it can be very useful to think about things and not arbiter. Like, instead of saying, hey, is it good or bad that this person's doing this? Just remove the valence from the equation and just more think, why is this person doing this? What market forces or like what forces are leading them to do this? What are the downstream
Is it
consequences of that,
naive?
etc.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is it naive to think that the world is generally good?
I think that's like
I,
almost a
I
category
almost just
error,
got
man.
confused by that because I think I've kind of internalized what Salas said earlier, which is that like you can't really like you just have to think about like why the thing is happening as opposed to like whether it's good or bad.
Well, that's my macro point, right? It's like, well,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, I think generally my perspective is that it's unclear to me. Shit, I'm getting a phone call. 1 second. Let me just kill it really quick. Okay, sorry about that. I guess my macro thing is it's unclear to me um how to evaluate, in a very objective way. Look, obvious things aside, I'm not sure if I'm able to
But I think preventative Botox is like relatively obvious to most people.
which is what, bad? Is
Like
it bad?
I think 95% of people would be like preventative Botox to 14-year-olds is probably bad.
I think it's less about whether or not it actually works actually in this case, and it's more about the fact that there's a large series of health products where you can sell. I was asking someone recommended that I take lactoferrin the other day, and I asked them, okay, so what does lactoferrin do? Like, what have you noticed from it? And they're like, dude, like it's not it's not like one of those things where you notice something from it, right? Like you guys always want this to like do something, right? But it's like it's not one of
That
those
was
supplements
you
that
told me
can.
about this, and I just started hysterically laughing, like Lucas just being like innocently like, so have you noticed anything? And then the guy goes like, no. And it's like, what do you mean? And it's like, you always want like some kind of like effect from the cause, man. Like, have you tried just taking supplements for the hell of it,
Well,
bro?
and then I asked, and he
And
said,
I just
"Well,
we
here's
both started laughing.
Isn't
he
this the
sent me this
canonical
infographic.
placebo effect of anything, right? Like there's
Maybe, but he sent me an
No, but he's not
infographic
even noticing a
that had a
placebo.
circle, right?
It's like a step further than that.
He had a circle, and then this circle had 87 other circles, and all the other circles touching it. The middle circle said lactoferrin, and then the other circle said like gut health, like brain health, endocrines, like all just like all of these other things. And he's like, "This will explain it." And I was like, "Dude," like. And then I was like, "So what would happen if you stopped taking it?" And he's like, "Well, I don't really know, but like presumably like I would gradually have like a worse immune response or something." And I was like, this is the potential worst sales pitch of all time. Like, worst to ever do it. I don't know if I've ever felt less of a desire to buy a product.
Hmm.
I think also with the health stuff and like I think just in general, whenever people feel like 14-year-olds feel some kind of societal pressure to take something, they feel that's bad. I think a lot of the beauty stuff is like it's a zero-sum game, right? In a lot of ways, so that's also bad. And then like Botox is certainly, we can argue whether it's like bad for you or not, but I don't think anyone's arguing that like Botox is like good for you health wise.
I could argue.
I think
could
it's
argue
pretty
that
clear.
Botox,
I think
I could do it.
95%
I could do
of
it.
people.
You wouldn't. I don't think you would be convinced by it, but I could do it with a straight face.
Go on.
I think you could certainly.
No, I
do.
want
You
to see.
have the
I want
chops
to hear
do
it, Lucas. Let's do it.
Well, I just think in a lot.
Lucas makes the case for 14-year-old pre-Botox.
Well, so what I would
That
have
should
to
be
go
the
at it from
headline
a-
of this podcast, by the way. Although, damn,
Selling Botox to 14-year-olds would go really fucking hard as an episode title, dude.
Jesus Christ.
We would get
You guys are
demonetized so hard.
engagement maxing now, bros.
Oh yeah. No, but I think that I would have to go about it from a functional angle and say something like I mean, basically right now everyone has some form of structural tension from either sitting all day or some other fucked up posture thing, right? And it's like we have tried getting people to stretch, right? We've been like, dude, like every day we got to wake up and do your runner's stretches, and nobody does it. Like it just does not happen at all. And as a consequence, there's a cascading rise in tension through certain muscles, right? It's different in every person, but most office workers have a pretty similar area that winds up being very in constant tension, overstressed, has a bunch of muscle knots, stuff like that. Presumably, you can just hit this with some Botox and say, like, okay, there you go. You no longer have to stretch. Yes, you've become a less functional human being. And if you ever try to play tennis or ping pong or something, it's over for you. You won't be able to use half of your back. But, like, just think of how good your posture will be naturally when you sit at your desk chair next time. You won't be getting.
I don't know if that's the most compelling sales pitch, man. I'm gonna
not
keep
convinced,
it real
Lucas.
with
Well, then I guess I just have to
Yeah.
sleep Botox you if you guys aren't convinced by the words. We have to use the action.
you. Look, the sales pitch is like you're gonna take
The
this.
sales
It's
pitch
just
is like I have
matter
a
of how
huge
willing
like
it is.
1,000 cc syringe behind my back, and it's like one way or another. This
You
is
know, a
going
lot of,
inside of you.
A lot of dudes are getting Botox now. Like I think I was talking to somebody who was working at that startup, or it's not even a startup, but Peachy and stuff, and they're like, "Oh my god, the rise of men getting Botox is actually non-trivially high," which I found, and they're actually straight men, not gay men. So,
Not anymore. They're not.
well, okay, I'm just relaying what I
No,
heard,
don't.
and
We're big fans of the homos out there. Like we're more
I
on the
mean,
homo
that's
side
kind
than
of
any
like
other
saying
side.
like that's kind of like saying, dude, like
do you think?
my husband who's like super straight really wants to go to San Francisco in like the 1960s. Like my husband who's super straight really wants to go to the bathhouses in San
Do you
Francisco.
think straight
in
guys
the
cannot get
1960s.
Botox?
And it's just, well, I mean, the joke I'm going for here is like, like there's some degree of like you're not fully aware of the full picture, and some people might be trying to hide things from you. There's also like another joke, which is like everyone's just gay
Right,
nowadays.
that's my
Like
favorite
Tinder
joke.
and all these things was originally Grinder, right?
Yeah, the
Like
entire
um,
modern app
even
infrastructure.
Snapchat. Snapchat started as an app for like basically gay hookups.
Yep, you go from Grinder.
And
You gotta take them off of Grinder because they don't want to have the pictures there, and you send the pictures over Snapchat. So I've heard.
Yep, Snapchat used to be. I love hearing about the stories of it's insane how many products started out as like effectively dating products, or like much more sexually explicit versions than the
I
word
mean,
like
everything
dating
on the
per
internet
se.
is basically a
Um,
dating product if you put your mind to it, I guess. People ask
The
other people
point,
out on
this is
yeah,
LinkedIn.
actually in many ways you could say the point of all society boils down to this, right?
I have this post. It's like LinkedIn is the only place where hot recruiters will message autistic men and get left on reg.
that's not true, man. I have to counter signal here
Which
too,
is
man.
what's
I think autistic men are in like world historic demand nowadays.
why?
I think a lot of people have realized that like autism is not necessarily a bad thing, and having someone, I think autism is like very useful for a lot of secondary things. Like in a world where you have to be your own doctor and be your own mechanic and be your own IT guy and be your own whatever, being autistic is very powerful. And then I think all the autistic people have also figured out like, oh, I don't have to like min max my computer. I can min max my looks, or I can min max my like pickup game. And so they've started to like inadvertently become. It's like an autistic guy who's like my special interest is people, or like being really good at talking to people.
Yeah, there's a lot of very. I don't know. My thought on this is that we're doing the gradual Asianification of everything. Like Asia and all of its dating problems, issues, dynamics, whatever you want to call it. They were sort of the first pioneer for a lot of these problems that the West has in general. And you can consistently look over to like Korea and see kind of where the future for America is. Now they obviously put their weird Asian spin on it in ways, but for
Do
them.
you guys think the outcomes will also follow in the West? The Asian country outcomes, which is like low birth rates, low
Yep.
relationships,
Yep.
all of these things are
Absolutely.
going to proliferate across the Western culture. I guess they already are, but at scale, I suppose.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't know. Like we can do the whole birth rates conversation or whatever, but it just appears to be like we know a lot of the factors that are going into making this the way that it is, and no one's gonna roll back any of them, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
This is,
nobody.
goes back to our earlier point, Lucas, which is like there's no point in talking about um, relationships or birth rates or whatever. I mean, these things are, I think, nominally cooked, however you want to phrase that. And if it's a cooked dish, it's not really that interesting anymore because it's like, what's the point? I want to talk about like things that
Yeah,
are
like
like,
we're gonna debate like the Hungarian fertility policy or something like that, and like,
yeah,
oh well,
So
what
I
if
will say, update on the fertility. Apparently, Korea's fertility is like going up a
not a
lot.
lot.
Going
Like
up a
it's like
lot does
very,
mean
dude.
like
It's like not even.
it's very high in a percentage wise. It's just that they're very
Well, it
low.
turns
They're
out I don't
starting off
think I
very
read that it wasn't
low.
even statistically significant the change. And
Oh.
so like
they're at such a low level of fertility that it's like, oh my god, it's a 30% candle, 30%, and it's like, okay, they're still like 60% below the replacement rate.
Okay, you guys want to
Like,
know one other thing is I don't think you can actually create an engaging white pill podcast or anything white pill that's engaging. Like no one's gonna listen to it.
you
I
make
think you
everyone
can
so
if you
happy and
create like
content
some
they just
wacky
log
sort
off.
of white pill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, why would they listen to it? I mean, again, obviously it's a joke before people come
I
at
think
me.
you can create like some kind of like wacky white pill that's like less a white pill and more like here's this one weird trick that no other podcaster wants you to know about how to inject Botox into your like muscle,
That's
your
not
jaw
that's
You
not
can
white pill
muscles.
content.
Yeah,
Um,
you can always be useful, right? Like you can always tell them that your three hot tips.
provide actual value. Boo, boo.
Yeah. This hey the tagline for this podcast could be we don't provide any value.
Zero
There's no there's
Wrong.
no
zero
value
value
here.
inside, zero value within. So what I'm curious about is, do you think that looks is sort of like a zero sum thing where like Imagine that, like, basically, how do you think the intersection of, like, supply and demand works in a dating market? If all men gradually, like, if they lose weight and become more attractive, uh, does this mean none of them got more attractive effectively? Or
Yeah.
does it mean, like, is there some baseline under which people just say, like, supply and demand doesn't matter, we don't want you, right? Like, you're so fucked up.
I have a take here, but I'm curious what you have
Wait,
to
I
say
mean,
first,
look, I
Signal.
think generally, like, what is attractiveness for a man? Like, what is it? Like, what is the canonical?
Oh my god, holy black pill nuke. Like Signal just comes in with like, can men even be
No, I never
attractive?
said that. The point I'm trying to make is like, how do you process attraction? Look, in history, attractiveness for a man, like for example, the past kings and whatever, were fat and really ugly. With lots of men.
Okay, I don't know if they were
But look,
Okay,
ugly,
look,
but I do agree
here.
they were
No, no,
if
no,
you
probably
no, no.
go
We
to
have to restart. We have to restart. I've clearly fucked up this whole hypothetical. Instead of saying all men get more attractive, let's say all women societally are raised like 3 points in attractiveness.
I
Does
mean,
this
that's
mean?
already
Does this?
happening, Lucas. Like that is the like what did the underlying
Well, but what he's asking is not is this happening or is this not happening? He's asking like, is this good? Does this
What?
lead to
Yeah.
better
Well,
outcomes for
no, no. What
people?
is the effect on the supply? Right? Is like, are there women who were previously undateable by men, or does that not exist? Do men adjust what they are willing to date based on the market supply, or do they literally have a random rock bottom where it's like below this point, it just doesn't even matter? Biological impulses have said that I can't even reproduce with you. Like shit doesn't work, can't get it up, not happening.
for dudes, it's not about the availability. It's just that whenever they're ready and the time, you know, there's probably an inflection point for a man where it's like, I need to settle down. And
I kind of agree.
therefore
I
you just
disagree
you
super
just
hard.
pick whoever you're with and or you find somebody good enough and then you call it a day. Um and so
Here's
until that inflection
mine.
point happens, it's not a process of finding the right person. For dudes, it's a process of finding the right time. For women, it's the process of finding the right person, which is why, I mean, if a girl is active on a dating app, for example, she'll be going on 5, 6, 7 dates a week or something like that. Obviously, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you see this happening in New York all the time, and so at that point,
I think it's a really big exaggeration versus like the median.
um, look, I think I'm talking about like big city culture, like New York City or LA or something like that.
I don't think that's
I think these are
like
actually
almost certain that's
non.
not normal,
I
but
think okay, maybe a little bit further than
I
that.
don't think it's like some crazy statistical outlier, to be clear. I don't think it's like the top 0.001%. But I don't think the average.
The average woman has used hypergamy to go on 127 dates per
No, no,
week,
no,
and
that's
it's
an insult.
It's
over.
just, I mean, the numbers don't add up at a
Actually,
certain
hold
point,
on,
right?
hold on.
Like, there's not
I
It's
enough.
do
one
wanna ask
guy
you-
dating the same 300 women. Like it's like one of those sushi buffets where like
Did
it
you guys-
brings you the
There
food.
isn't
Wait,
enough
did you guys ever see that?
time. Yeah, this
Do you
doesn't
guys know
work.
about West Elm Caleb?
Wait, hold on. Before we go, we'll swap the topic. But I think my take is this. I think it depends a lot what you mean by all like people become 3 points more attractive. That can mean a lot of things, right? That can mean like, oh, we just give like UBI, like universal Botox, right? And so it's like the top women maybe don't get a lot more attractive because they already didn't have wrinkles, but the bottom women maybe get more attractive because now they don't have wrinkles anymore. Versus like if it's like a 10 becomes a 13 and like a 4 becomes a 7, I think in that case we probably don't have better outcomes and everything stays the same because we all adjust to what like a woman looks like now. And if you look at like, I mean, if you look at like a proto-human, like a proto-homid, like these people were having sex, debatably like much more sex than us, and like, you know, like where are the virgins compared to these people? And God knows that like they were not very good looking.
But also,
right?
but also,
it's just that to
that was
them,
before
what
the,
good
that was
looking
before the
meant
human race turned gay.
was
That was
different.
before the human race turned gay. That was before testosterone levels were decreased by 92%.
This is also
Do you guys
true.
know?
Yeah.
Do you guys know how much it costs? Do you guys know how much it costs to do like a testosterone check at
It's
LabCorp?
No idea,
I think
man.
it's like $40 or something,
Dude,
right?
it's $500.
What?
There's no way you're getting adversely selected.
No,
bro.
I swear to God.
I'm gonna keep it real.
No.
This is like you just walked in and you're like,
My
dude, do you know how much it costs to fucking get a drink? And you're like, it costs $100.
Dude,
And it's like, dude, yeah, man.
Okay,
You're
so
like going
I
to the best
literally
bar in
went
New
in for
York.
my
Like,
physical and I asked my doctor, I'm like, hey, I want to get my testosterone check. It's
yeah.
very
Do you
high,
have
by
like
the
a
way.
normal doctor or do you have like a special
The
doctor?
normal, like a primary care. I have one medical.
dude, I just got full blood labs. They took like 6 vials of shit for like $180 and they
Dude, I went to
tested
lab.
damn near.
Yeah, man.
I went to lab, like,
Signal, I'm like, I just think there's a 0% chance that you go and see like an average doctor.
wait,
And
what do you?
just, I just
you
think that the
you think
odds.
I'm going to like a really high end doctor that's like concierge?
Yes,
Remember
I
how we
think the
started
odds
this
that you're.
podcast and we were like, hey, maybe you want to find a smaller room so there's less echoes? And you were like, I don't have any small rooms, right?
Yeah, wait, can you tell us? Let's make him say it. So you come into the podcast and it's like slightly echoey, and we're like fiddling with audio and like saying hi and talking a little bit about the format. What exactly did you say when I asked, do you potentially have a room that has like more things inside of it or is smaller? What did you say exactly?
I mean, I don't know. I don't remember, but I said something like, I'm so sorry. This is gonna sound douchey, but I don't really have like a small room. I only have I only have 17-foot ceilings, guys. Jesus Christ. Sue me, okay? Sue me.
17-foot ceilings.
Signal lives in some like modern, like Greco, like transhumanist Greco, like type, like AI generated
It's so
hotel.
true, dude.
Is it actually 17 feet ceilings? That's like
It's
oh.
I would say most of the house is that, but then I think some of them probably are about 12 to 13 feet, maybe.
I can't tell if he's
No, no,
fucking with me or not. I legitimately
no,
can't tell.
that's I like high ceilings, guys.
There is 0% chance that you go to a normal doctor. Signal. Like actually,
No,
Yeah, but-
0%
also, no.
chance.
Even this is the other problem with this. Even if you do go to a normal doctor, by going to them, you transform them into a scammer doctor, is what I'm guessing, right?
Okay, yeah,
You could go
sure.
to the most normal doctor in the world, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, that testosterone sample, that's gonna be like checks notes, like $4,000, bro."
The doctor like keeps like saying prices that feel outrageous
And you just
to
keep
Signal,
being like,
and
"Yeah,
then Signal
sure."
keeps like not even blinking, and the doctor just like walks into a back room and like smacks his head and goes like, stupid, like no, I could have made
That's
so
funny.
much more
He has,
money.
it's like a white person traveling to like a third world country where they automatically jack up the prices or whatever as soon as it's like, oh, Mister, it's Lucas. It's no longer 10,000 rupees. It's like 50,000.
I paid like
And then Lucas also feels like he got like a scam bargain.
No,
and the
they
Indian
will
guy,
make
like, wants
Lucas
to
feel
kill
so
himself.
good about himself because he will feel like he got a deal because they typically the price. Okay, a normal person that price would have been like 500, and then they're gonna tell Lucas it's gonna be like 10,000, and then when Lucas says fuck you no, they're gonna be like, oh, you can have it for 5,000, and it's still he'll feel good about it because he feels like he got a deal, and then the person feels really good about it because he just totally scammed the shit out of it because he just increased that price by 10x. Or
I had
like
my
2
worst
orders of magnitude.
purchasing moment in Taipei. There was this guy who had a price for I was buying like a computer or something like that, and I just walked in and I said, "Yeah, I'll take that thing." Uh, and then he starts like haggling with me over the price, and I was just like, "Dude, just let me fucking buy it." And I didn't even realize what was happening, but like after like 30 seconds after, I was like, "Oh god damn it!" Like this was such an exorbitantly high price that he expected me to like barter with him over it, but I was just like, just give me the fucking thing, I'm willing to pay. And I like completely, he gave, the worst part is that he gave me a second shot, right? Like he tried to tell me what was going on.
He's like, no, dude, you don't get it. We're supposed to go back and
One of my
forth here.
ex-girlfriends, we were in Morocco, and I remember we sort of got into a little bit of a fight because she went to go to a shop, and she was like, oh, I love these little leather sandals or whatever. And the guy was like, oh, this is XYZ price. And she was like, okay, here you go. And I was like, wait, what are you doing? It's not how it works here. Like we have, and she was like, no, I don't care. I just want to buy them. I don't want to deal with anything. And I was like, wait, that's not how it works. You're violating. You're
violating like Somalian commercial law. Like
It's like probably extremely rude. It's like you're kind of flexing on somebody if
you don't negotiate. Like
go back
Yeah,
and forth once or
exactly.
twice, right? It's like
And so I was
disrespectful.
like, wait, I mean, it was remarkable. And her entire world was never about bargaining and or, haggling and whatever.
Dude,
Um,
women hate this shit. Women absolutely are like at
well, I
least
mean,
Western women, they like I had a lot of
it feels
people who
icky.
came
It
from
feels really icky for Western
right.
women to do this.
Yeah, they came from the US and they would visit Taipei and they would okay, so when I was living in Taipei, I didn't have a bank account in Taiwan, and so you can't without a bank account in Taiwan, you cannot use PC Home 24, which is like their version of Amazon. So if you want to buy something, you frequently just have to go to the store to get it, right? But like they don't have like the place where you go to get tech supplies is this tech bazaar, like Guanghao Digital Plaza, I believe. Uh, and you literally have to go and barter with people in this like 7-story building over like a screen protector for your phone or something, right? So you have to go and it's like a 30-minute cab down there, and then you have to go up to story 4, and then you have to barter with this person, and their whole thing is like it's hyper optimized for just tech bazaar bartering, because they assume, well, if you're coming here you want to barter, like you want the experience, right? Because otherwise you would just use Taiwanese Amazon, and you're not doing that, right? So you're just trapped into this thing of infinite bartering over like $4 items whenever, and it's like you can't just go and buy the USB-C cable, right? Or like the weird HDMI adapter. You need to go barter with somebody. It's like the worst part of every month.
We should at some point shill Zcash and
That's the
Polymarket.
thing. Yeah, we do got to talk a little bit about we've talked some about Polymarket, but Signal, I could just come out right and
Yes.
ask you, how do you feel about prediction markets? Have you used them? Have you played with them? What do you think their net effect on society is? And if you had to get giga rich right now, how would you use them?
That's fucking hilarious. First of all, I think, a lot of people have like a potential negative perception of prediction markets.
Signal is so perfect for this.
Well, I love
He's like the perfect guest.
I mean, my perception is, if you want to know some,
He's gambling good or bad. Who can really
yeah,
say,
it's great.
man?
I've always been a person where I've had some crazy, um, like I never was in the middle. Like I would never be in the middle about anything. I would just have a, you know, left or right type perspective. But in some sense, like okay, the thing I like Polymarket's actually really interesting because, man, like the essence of what is truth with an incentive structure is actually kind of cool from a fucking pure
Well, it becomes an
incentive.
Ouroboros, right? Like it's like you can actually change the future by making the market on it in a way that somebody is willing to invest on, right? Like
Yeah, I mean, and there's all sorts of trade-offs and downsides here, right? It's not perfect. There's a lot of things you can, whales can move the fucking bits, whatever direction that they'd like, manipulate. It's not open. There's insider trading. All that stuff exists. I think generally, um, prediction markets are very fascinating from a pure incentive structure perspective. And I like incentive structures. And if there's a right incentive structure, it reveals some cool things for humanity, like in this case, potentially the truth before the truth actually happens. And I find that fairly interesting. As far as the gambling and the other shit, I don't really care for it. I don't really particularly trade on it, nor do I like participate in it that much. Um,
I also really enjoy that Polymarket has exposed the average person to an understanding of incentive flows in a way that they've never really thought about before, because you actually, like, once you put money on a thing, you actually do kind of care more about it. And you have this funny situation where like on any given geopolitical event, you can actually have multiple different political actors all participating in different directions on the same market, right? Like you can have a market for, will America have boots on the ground in Iran by this date, right? And you can have like Hegseth, and he's trying to make money insider trading this, but like Hegseth doesn't even know, because actually Trump is overruling him so that Barron can win the market, right? And so like you have this infinitely scaling ladder of insiders, and they all think that they're right and they all think that they have an edge, but in the end, like you actually might be better off as just like a random detached outsider uh who has no idea what's going on with this, just like going trading on your balls.
I think I think one of the things about these markets is like there are certain markets, and maybe it's survivorship bias, maybe I'm an incredibly intelligent person, maybe it's luck. Um, I think there are certain markets that do feel like free money. I'm a big believer that like 2 or 3 times a year there's just like free money lying on the ground on the market if you're
We already
sufficiently
nailed
tapped
both
in.
of them this year, and it's not even
Yeah, we,
Q2
we
yet.
we have nailed both of them, so maybe it's like we don't we don't maybe they're
There's
yeah
no
we
more
either need
free
to
money.
change
We
these
already
to like
picked
there's
it up.
4 or
Like,
6. Yeah, yeah. I am curious. The other thing, and this is also a sponsor, but I think we're like lucky enough to have sponsors that are very interesting and have like interesting products. Do you know what Zcash is? Have you like thought about privacy, like private money at all and whatnot?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
Signal.
of course I know what it is. I mean, this is like the holy grail of uh in some sense money laundering, right? I don't I'm not saying money laundering's happening.
Zcash,
this is the greatest
sponsored by
advertisement subsegment.
Zcash.
Please,
No, I
please
mean I
cut
think
this
Zcash
out.
is like
Please, don't fucking say I said.
we'll definitely leave some
By
parts
if
of
by
this
cut this out
strategically.
you mean clip this and then promote it with exceptional effort.
I have a.
If you mean cut this from the episode and put it elsewhere, yeah, for sure.
I mean, look, private money is really like private transactions are really interesting. Like, there's no is Zcash really that private? I don't know. Didn't they break it? Some people.
I think it is really
Zcash is
private, yeah, because you have the shielded.
yeah.
You have the shield. It's like the one thing that everyone kind of agrees is
Yeah.
private, actually.
Okay. Anyway, the point being is, there's no other mechanic for like non KYC transactions, right?
There's like a few mechanics depending on how deep you're willing to go.
They're
Like you
all
can
just a
always like
huge pain in the
P2P
ass.
stuff. Yeah, it's just a huge. It's like you have to go meet some random guy in some part of the city that you don't know, and it's like all like off of like word of mouth, trust and
And then
stuff, and so
hand
it's
him
kind of
cash or
it's like fairly
something.
sketchy.
You give them the
Yes,
briefcase,
yes.
they give you the private keys, like
Insane.
they don't actually give
Yeah,
listen guys, I
it's
swear to
pretty
God,
sketchy.
if you ever go about an OTC transaction and you're trading the private keys, you should reconsider anyway. Uh
That's ridiculous.
but our
Um,
Yeah, there's definitely like things not to do here that people do. I think
I'm not a crypto guy at all, and I I like the technology behind crypto, but I don't like the communities of TikTok.
not a huge speculator.
if it makes you feel
Yeah.
any better, there's literally nobody in the face of the
I love how
earth
Signal's
who is a
like
fan of the
dating
crypto
apps,
community.
selling AKs in Iran. Who can really say if that's good or bad? Crypto disavow would never touch it ever.
Dude,
The
there's
worst
so
thing that's ever happened on Earth.
crypto has the single biggest concentration of scammers and bad behavioral people.
I think that might be changing. I think it might be shifting towards AI now.
I think it's got to be an AI now. I'll say
What
the
the
other
hell
thing
are
about
people
crypto
doing
and the
in AI that's
scammers.
grifting? Like others, I don't get it.
What?
Dude,
Brother,
we're not. That's
cousin,
not a serious question.
sir.
Okay, stop. We can go over to that in a second. We can go over to that in a second. We're not doing that right now. That's unreal. Unreal, Signal. Unreal, bro. Unreal thing to say. That's a clip. That's like a clip right there. God, I hope every AI stock tumbles like 50% tomorrow, and we can clip that.
I guess.
But I will say, like, I think the thing in crypto is that there's a ton of scammers and grifters. I think one of the things that's interesting about crypto is like a lot of the people who are buying scam or whatever products in crypto, like you're buying some token that like clearly has no value accrual or whatever, they know that that's the case. And so I think it's actually this very interesting thing
Do
where
they?
like
I
people
don't think
are
that's
kind of walking
true.
into this. Dude, you would be. People are walking into this like proverbial casino, and I think they do understand. I think it's just the scale of it and the productization of it, where it has been like insanely productized. I mean, there's companies that literally make hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of productizing this, right? Like your pump dot funds, etc. I think the other thing that's very fascinating to me about Zcash and like following some of the incentives threads that we were pulling on earlier, I think it's we often think about technology as this thing that only goes forward because we think of technology intrinsically as like the iPhone or information technology. And I think there's also things like social technology, and we were kind of touching on this indirectly in the conversation, where like some ways technology like, you know, Tinder or dating apps, which is like an information technology, has maybe been bad for social technology and for social cohesion, etc. And there's like some ways in which we lost some forms of social technology by improving information technology, right? Like your average 20-year-old is probably less sociable than they were 10 or 20 years ago, pre-Netflix, pre-Tinder, you know, TikTok. I think one of the places where we don't think about that is you used to be able to live a much, much, much more private life. Like even things like the travel rule, like the idea you can walk into the country with $10,000. You know that's from like World War II. Like $10,000 back then was like $1,000,000 right
Yeah.
now. Like imagine if the U.S. government was like, yeah, you can walk in with $1,000,000, no question to ask. But if you have more than a million, you have to answer a couple questions. Like that seems much more reasonable than like being questioned over like walking into an airport with $10,000 is kind of questionable, man. Like I travel around for months at a time, and like $10,000 is just not that much money in 2026, for better or worse.
Carrying $10,000
right? Like
sounds like a
$10,000
bitch.
was like, yeah. I mean, it's just like very interesting the way in which like people have much, much, much less privacy and much, much, much less agency over vis-a-vis like the control that the government has over you and the insights they have into you. It is kind of interesting where the government has these things into you in kind of a spiky way. Like I don't think the average person needs to be worried about privacy, but then like maybe randomly some random person at the CIA hates you and like makes your life hell over some random thing you did. It's pretty interesting. I
Signal,
think.
are you aware that Pump.Fun was actually the fastest company to $1 billion in revenue in like the history of the human race?
Yeah, I actually know Elon or um I mean I do know this fact, but I'm not sure where you're going with this. Go on.
No, I was just asking because like a lot of people in general tech,
A lot of the AI people are unaware of some of the revenue, like
Oh.
the sustainable revenue that
Oh,
like
exists
to
in
this
crypto.
I'm not.
to
I'm
this
not
day,
necessarily
I'm
Pump is
not. I
you.
mean,
making
look
$1
at
million a day.
the idea that crypto has revenue and makes money. Of course, dude. Coinbase is a publicly traded company, and
Yeah, but some of this is like more sustainable than other stuff, right?
um, look,
Everybody assumes that crypto revenue is like this thing that appears and then you grab it and then if you don't, it disappears, right? Like
well,
it's
what
this
is it
very
from?
transient thing.
What value
In
are they adding to society?
in the case of
Oh my god, it's literally the meme where Signal's like AK-47s to Iran. Who am I to say what's good or bad? Selling crypto to willing consumers at willing market prices. What value are you adding to society, you piece of shit? You disgusting
Hey,
grifter.
I never. I first of all, fuck you guys. I never said the Iran thing. All right. I, I,
No, I'm
I know,
giving
I
you
know,
that's
shit.
I
the
know.
I'm giving you
episode
shit.
title is Signal endorses child soldiers.
and preteen Botox.
Okay, you did say the preteen Botox. You
Hey,
did say
I
that
never.
one. You can't.
I
You
didn't
can't weasel your
endorse
way out of
it.
that
I
one.
didn't say anything, but I just said that there is some of this stuff going on. To what extent, I'm not sure.
You said specifically, I think something to the effect of, "Who am I to say if this is
I don't
good or
think
bad?"
I'm not to judge. If a parent wants their child to go get Botox at 14, who are you to judge? Like, why would you ever get in the middle of that?
He's got a good point, Sayla.
I just have a take that is like very contrary to normal people, which is I think judging is good. I think judging is like a lost social
Dude,
technology.
judging is so much fun.
I think a lot of the problems we have is because like judging is presumed to be a bad
I
thing.
mean, I think it got. I like to do things that other people are not doing, and I think too many people are judging, so I'm not going to judge anymore.
I think too few people are judging.
What are you
man.
talking about? Everything on
I-
Twitter, every single post is effectively a judgment against somebody's behavior and or
It's a take, but it's not judgmental. Like people do the thing where it's like, oh, this seems pretty crazy, but who am I to judge, right? Like I mean, the exact same thing you're doing with the Botox, right? Like everyone has takes, but I think very few people. Like for example, we'll put it one way. I'll put it this way. Like the other day in this group chat that we're in, a bunch of people started talking about like, yeah, I think like OnlyFans managers should be, you know, we'll bleep some of this out. And I was like, it's really insane that you have like that, like you believe that very strongly, but you don't seem like. Would you say that about like the guy who made OnlyFans?
what about
Like what about the guy who made the whole platform? Or
But
like,
what
what about a guy who owns a strip club? I think the way in which people judge things is very strange nowadays. And they're almost always willing to be like, well, this is crazy. But then they stop themselves short of being like, it's good or bad.
Well, it's because
Um,
the way in which they decide who to direct their anger at is not like how do I solve this problem? Like what is root cause source of this problem as much as it is like
in-group
which group do I
signaling and
dislike
like,
or which group is like a safe assailable target here, right?
it's just
yes.
look, man, it serves no functional purpose. Like, what is going to get you other than
What,
yeah,
judging?
other than just pure like I don't know, agonizing. I don't
Uh,
know. Look,
I think it's societally useful at times. I think it can be
yeah,
societally
at
useful,
times is
like
Yeah.
probably the
judging.
key. Like,
Well, I would say more than what we're doing now. You would maybe think less.
I think it's
Other
like if
people would
everyone is
differ.
allowed to do everything and we descend into some sort of like Mad Max meth
Yeah, I
utopia
think
or
that's
hey,
pretty
I
something.
bad.
never said that would. I'm not.
You're doing the thing
No, no,
again,
no, no.
man, where
I'm
you're
not
not
saying that. I'm
judging,
not
not
saying you're
judging
saying it, but
now.
it's like the thing standing between us and Mad Max Meth Utopia, where you can do like instant euthanasia, is definitely like some degree of judging, right? Like it's a social shame thing. Uh, I don't
Yeah.
think you can really attribute it to anything else. And I think most of the time people complain about like social ills they're experiencing now. They're also things that were previously held in check by just giga shaming.
Oh yeah,
Obviously, you can totally misallocate shaming to the most ridiculous things possible, right? Uh, but
Yeah,
is
for
there a
sure.
massive meme in the one of the what is it? Don't kink shame or something like where everything is completely accepted no matter what. And I guess my thing is, man, I have a limited amount of bandwidth in terms of like what I can think about and how I can think about it and whatnot. Like, I I can't really have a judgment on everything. Like, it's just like whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Appeal to time foul. I'm so tempted, like halfway, like to really hold. I'm not gonna do it, but it would be so funny to like continue being like tell it like force you down a
I mean,
pathway where you had to emit a judgment on
no, no,
these
no. If I,
things.
dude, I would. I mean, if
Um,
this, I look.
you have to,
Also,
dude. This is our job as posters. Is we're here to sell the takes, bro. Like if
of
someone
course,
asks me about furries, they either have to be the best thing in the world or the worst thing in the world. They can't just be like medium. Like
yeah.
furries are medium, bro.
You and I are to a certain extent. You and I are in the engagement business. Although I'm not monetizing, but you know,
you are indirectly though, right? Kind
I
of.
mean, look,
I mean, I'm sure it's useful for Signal, like your product stuff,
uh,
right?
yeah, but that's a side effect. That's not an end. That's not the reason for why, and nor like any revenue that I make is inconsequential. It's not
I don't think
optimized for any
anyone
of it.
started out doing this. And sorry, I don't think any of the good or influential posters started out with the intent to influence anything or monetize. Like I think there's a specific type of person who
You
does
guys
Yeah.
this
think
to
the X is better with monetization, creator monetization, or worse?
it's obviously just much worse as far as I can tell. Like it
I'll give you my take. My take is like it's worse, but the reason why it's worse is because the team is unwilling to do basic things that would curb almost all of the downsides.
What's a good example?
Like I think there's very small things you can do. I think it's pretty clear who's engagement farming and who's not engagement farming. I think the team has done a lot of things that have inadvertently been bad. And then you can say, hey, move fast and break things or not. But like for example, I think one that anyone would be hard pressed to argue was like a good thing is when that one account posted like a photo of Steve Jobs' daughter, and then Nikita Beer gave him like $10,000 for getting 80 million views
I
on
think he
that.
regretted that.
And then that guy lost his mind forever and only ever got like 5 like tweets after that.
I think he's been
Just like
doing
his
well again
dopamine
recently,
Yeah,
receptors
I
are
actually.
think
fried out.
Zoomer is doing fairly well again.
Good for him, man. But like I think that was bad. I think that was like probably a pretty
And
bad
it
thing
also
that
made
like they paid him ten thousand
everybody
dollars.
yeah, I mean this is just the big problem is like when you write somebody one of those big cartoon checks in a very public way, you have to just understand that everybody is going to copy what they're doing and it's like do you want everybody posting pictures of billionaires' daughters and just saying like, "Wow, dude, she's so fucking hot" on your platform? Like is that what you want to have? Cuz it
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
he,
another
I think he,
problem is that X has an identity. I think X has an identity crisis, um, where like it is very beloved as a text-focused site by a relatively small group of people that monetizes on the fact that it's used worldwide. Like X is used very prolifically worldwide, but it was really valuable and very particularly beloved and special. Like there's people who use X basically the same way that people use Instagram or Facebook. But I think there was a very specific group of people in finance and tech largely who used X in a very particular way, and it was very, very, very beloved for that by incredibly powerful and important people, and it was very valuable as a tool to shape discourse. I think that is one thing, and then I think X is struggling to reconcile that, which is almost like a vanity project that's very expensive, but it's like buying a newspaper, with the fact that now X apparently has a $44 billion valuation, right? It was valued at $44 billion, then it was absorbed into XAI, now it's absorbed into SpaceX. And so now it's like, okay, we actually do have to like make a certain amount of money and we have certain KPIs. And so I think it's very hard to balance those two things. Probably my biggest thing for X is like I wish they would bring more sim cluster stuff back. I think the boosting of the in-group sim cluster was very powerful. And I think that being diminished is very bad. And I think I am not even aware of how it's bad entirely, because I think the people who it's worse for are people who are starting new accounts. I think starting new accounts in the era of like Slop X is really tough. I also think they have some tough headwinds, which is like AI content is obviously, difficult for them to deal with, and they're one of the top places for AI content to go, and one of the top places where it's hated. So I think there's a lot of difficulties, and they have an identity crisis. I think there's certain things that they've done that I would like say we're pretty clear at the time it was a mistake. There's some stuff that maybe, I'm like looking back on it and saying it with the benefit of hindsight.
Do you guys like that I turned the table and got you guys to give judgment?
Yeah, absolutely. But we're happy to give
No, it's
judgment,
great.
man. That's our whole thing, is judging people. That's what we do. That's we're professional judgers.
Well, okay.
Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you for listening to another episode of Plausibly Deniable. Remember, everyone, if you made it to the end, you are spiritually obligated to subscribe. Godspeed, we love you, and good night.
It was fun. If you want, Lucas can send you the transcript. We'll cut off all the stuff where we
it's
talk
just
about,
going to
like,
be,
we're
this
gonna cut this
transcript is
part
straight up
or
going to be
whatever.
like, if you actually read this thing, I will be so fucking amazed. You would be shocked the amount of text that you can generate through like 1 hour of talking, and it's like,
No,
we've done it.
You think I read shit, Lucas? I just fucking feed it to Claude or something, and I'm like, hey, find anything interesting where I'm like, look like a moron or an idiot, and cut it
Yeah,
out.
good luck with the context window, sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys don't know.
Yeah,
I have a
man.
special model that has a infinite context window, bro.
Oh, the employee model, the
I'm just-
Claude Opus 4.6 Anthropic employee model.